Welcome to Novel Love Hearing. We bring you hundreds of novel audiobooks covering every genre and every kind of story you can imagine. Action? We've got it. Adventure? Absolutely. Horror? Of course. Whether it's the legendary Uchiha Massacre or outrageous tales like stealing Naruto's and Sasuke's women, you'll find it here. From epic series like One Piece, Bleach, Fairy Tail, and Hunter x Hunter, to countless other adventures, our library has it all. Love novels but don't have time to read? No worries, just plug in your earbuds, sit back, and let the story take over. Good listening, and happy hearing. Chapter 1-1 Fishing on Lake of Smoky Waves. The scorching sun burned like fire, baking the earth below. Above Lake of Smoky Waves, clouds and mist twined, creating the atmosphere of an immortal's estate. A gentle breeze blew, lifting the immortal chi from the lake, yet it still couldn't dispel the heat brought on by the fiercely blazing sun. Consequently, the people by Lake of Smoky Waves grew restless as well. How come there's still no fish on the hook? This is so damn infuriating. It's been half a day, and not a single fish caught. Taoist Jia, is there some kind of secret technique involved? Out with it, is it a matter of bait? Are you using earth dragon worms, Taoist Jia? Share your secret recipe with everyone. 17 or 18 cultivators, clad in Taoist robes, surrounded a young Taoist holding a fishing rod, earnestly seeking guidance, their gaze occasionally darting to his fish basket. In the fish basket lay 12 green-scaled carps, some big, some small, the smallest around 2 inches and the largest over a foot long. Compared to the scanty catches in other people's baskets, the difference was like heaven and earth. It was their first visit to Lake of Smoky Waves, and so far, no one except Jia Ren had caught more than 2 spirit fish. Faced with eager inquiries, Jia Ren didn't even look up. He was weary of answering the same questions over and over. His gaze remained intently fixed on the float and the lake's emerald, jade-like surface, completely undistracted. If you want to catch fish, the bait is the most important. The bait recipe is a proprietary secret. How could it be so easily divulged? Sure enough, it was the bait. The crowd's eyes brightened. Would you sell some of your bait? Someone asked tentatively, willing to spend some fragmented spirit stones if the price was right. 10 pieces of bait for 1 fragmented spirit stone. The faces of the crowd changed, the price was steep. Green-scaled carps were ungraded spirit fish, their spiritual energy weak. One of sufficient weight could be sold for a fragmented spirit stone. With 10 pieces of bait, there was no guarantee of how many spirit fish one could catch. Wouldn't it be a loss-making business if too few were caught? They had ventured to Lake of Smoky Waves not for leisure, but to earn spirit stones. The crowd wasn't pleased, looking at Jia Ren with dissatisfaction. That price is too high. 1 fragmented spirit stone's worth of earth dragon worms can be used as bait at least 50 times. With such a high price, it's better to take the risk and fish within Lake of Smoky Waves. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone fell silent. They all knew that fishing in the lake was the quickest method, provided someone dared to do it. Otherwise, why would anyone bother fishing by the shores of Lake of Smoky Waves? Within Lake of Smoky Waves lived great magical beasts, a fact no loose cultivator was unaware of. Very few cultivators who entered the lake in its early days made it back alive. Fish in the lake? It was more like personally delivering a meal to the great magical beasts. If it hadn't been confirmed that there was no danger on the shores of Lake of Smoky Waves, probably no cultivator would have dared come. Would it be possible to give us 2 pieces of bait to try? Right, if it works well, we'll definitely be willing to buy. Jia Ren sat in the shade of an umbrella, occasionally grabbing the fruit wine at his waist and taking a hearty swig. He offered no answer to their questions. His thoughts drifted far away along with the float on the serene lake's surface. Jia Ren wasn't from this world. He was over 40, worth tens of millions, and had embraced an early semi-retirement lifestyle. In his free time, he enjoyed fishing, walking his dog, and keeping birds, living a life of boundless joy. In a lifetime, it's all about living comfortably and at ease. Why bother making oneself miserable? Unexpectedly, after waking from sleep, he found himself transmigrated into another world, into the body of someone with the same name. Initially, Jia Ren thought he was dreaming, but after accepting his predecessor's memories, he reluctantly faced reality. When reading novels, watching movies, and playing games in the past, he too had fantasized about transmigrating to the cultivation world, achieving immortality, carefreely riding a sword through the world, and settling injustices with a treasured blade. But dreams are always different from reality. Especially after acquiring the original host's memories, the image of an easygoing, omnipotent immortal gradually receded from his heart. An immortal is an immortal, while a cultivator is a cultivator. The gap between them cannot be reasoned out. For a cultivator to become an immortal is as big a delusion as a lunatic spouting nonsense. The original host had started cultivation at 15 and had just turned 30. 15 years of cultivation had barely brought him to the third layer of chi training. This already surpassed 50% of loose cultivators. The path of cultivation was as hard as ascending to the heavens. The cultivation world was far crueler than reality. Jiren's occupation of magical beast hunting was extremely dangerous, and every few years, a few familiar faces would die. The very first thing he did after reincarnating was to quit the magical beast hunting squad. Surviving 3 years of magical beast hunting with his cultivation level was simply a miracle. Change jobs? Without the knowledge in formations, alchemy, artifact refining, and talisman crafting, just mediocre magical beast hunting skills, where could I earn spirit stones? Magical beast hunting had brought him a wealth of knowledge. Leveraging his understanding of the great wilderness periphery, Jiren found Lake of Smoky Waves. After several days of probing, he confirmed the safety around the lake's shores and started his fishing life ahead of schedule. He continually improved his bait, and his catch kept increasing. Even though they were ungraded spirit fish, their sheer quantity was significant. With a stable daily catch, the income was no less than that from hunting low-level magical beasts. The competition among loose cultivators was too intense, and the good days didn't last long. Since he started bringing his caught spirit fish to the great wilderness market to sell, copycats appeared the very next day. The loose cultivators swarmed like flies smelling meat, each wanting a share of the bounty. By just the third day, more than 30 loose cultivators had gathered by Lake of Smoky Waves. The competition here was insane. I need to change the way I earn spirit stones, he thought. The cultivators gathered were a mixed bunch, and most were poor at fishing, using inferior bait. Jiren's daily catch was astonishing and would inevitably attract envy. Murdering for treasure was all too common in the cultivation world. Lake of Smoky Waves was located on the edge of the great wilderness and, unlike the market, offered no guarantee of safety. Having absorbed his former self's memories, and with over 70 years of life experience from both lives, he was accustomed to suspecting the worst in people's hearts. With more people fishing, selling bait would be more profitable. And safer. The one making money from a gold rush isn't necessarily the miner, but the one selling shovels. Relying on high-quality bait to make spirit stones off these fishermen wouldn't be difficult. Got a bite. Jiren shifted his position, kept the fishing rod horizontal, and gently shook its tip to ensure the fish was securely hooked, preventing any chance of escape. The surface of the lake churned, the force nearly pulling Jiren off balance. He quickly used his spiritual power to stabilize himself, planting his feet firmly on the ground to avoid being dragged into Lake of Smoky Waves. A big fish. Jiren slackened a line. He let the fish run when it pulled hard and reeled in when it tired, expertly playing it. Got a big one? The other loose cultivators, still fishing, put down their equipment and crowded around, over 30 pairs of eyes fixed on the lake surface. The water churned, and the thrashing outline of a large, green fish, over 3 feet long, became vaguely visible. A first-grade spirit fish. A jade carp. A jade carp over 3 feet long must weigh at least 6 pounds. That's 3 spirit stones. Envious and jealous gazes were cast his way, and the eyes of those watching Lake of Smoky Waves turned even more fervent. Once the fish had exhausted itself, Jiren decisively reeled it in. A jade-colored carp tumbled onto the muddy, grassy shore, thrashing about. Jiren took out his low-quality magical artifact, the Black Fang sword, from his storage bag and knocked the jade carp unconscious using the back of the sword. Live fish commanded a higher price, a dead one would lose value. Congratulations, Taoist brother, for catching the jade carp. 3 spirit stones were a considerable income, inciting envy among the loose cultivators, making them all the more eager to fish for spirit stones from Lake of Smoky Waves. I've benefited from the good fortune of my fellow Taoists, so I'll give each of you a piece of bait. Jiren said. He hadn't forgotten his idea of selling bait, taking this opportunity to distribute more than 30 samples for trial to make a name for himself. Taoist brother is generous. We also want to try the bait that caught the jade carp. He shared with all present, fostering goodwill and aiming to prevent any ill-willed actions born out of jealousy. My fellow Taoists, I shall take my leave. If you wish to buy bait in the future, you can find me in the West District Market. Jiren announced. Without waiting for a response from the loose cultivators, he rode the wind and drifted away. Chapter 2 The difficulties of a loose cultivator. The Great Wilderness Market was affiliated with the Five Elements sect and was originally a market established by the sect at the edge of the Great Wilderness. Over the past decade or so, more and more cultivators had gathered, and its scope had expanded repeatedly. Many loose cultivators no longer called it the Great Wilderness Market, but Great Wilderness City. The official name, however, was still Great Wilderness Market. It was a large market enveloped in a magic array, covering an area of more than 10 li. The market was near Grand Wilderness Mountain, and what came into view were terraced spirit fields. The spirit fields grew blue-green rice seedlings, which, before the harvest season, swayed with the wind, an impressive sight to behold. Do you have an identity token? To enter the market, without a dwelling, you're not allowed to stay overnight. The guards inquired of the new cultivators, typically giving them a warning. But seeing Jiren returning with his fish basket on his back, they couldn't help but chuckle. The fisherman's back so early. How's today's catch? Don't get too close, stay away from me. Smelling the fishy scent, one guard instinctively stepped back, barely hiding his contempt. The storm over the spirit fish from Lake of Smoky Waves had arisen the day before. Cultivators aware of the lake's peril just laughed it off, paying it no mind. As the first loose cultivator to test the waters, Jiren hadn't earned any spirit stones but had instead attracted a large number of other loose cultivators scrambling for a share. Truly pitiful. Even among loose cultivators, there existed a hierarchy of contempt. At the top were those who possessed cultivation skills and had a craft or trade to make a living. Those with average skill levels just managed to scrape by on a sustenance living. The highly skilled, meanwhile, even had the chance to become honored guests of families and sects. Below them were those with stable sources of income, like the position of guard at the Great Wilderness Market, who earned a decent amount of spirit stones each month. Not great, but not bad either. The worst off were the loose cultivators who hustled every day, with unstable income and an uncertain future. Every few years, a number of familiar faces also disappeared. One jade carp and a dozen or so small fish, just enough to get by. Jiren didn't mind the guards' disdainful looks, glad to use their words to promote himself a bit. You really got lucky. The guard's mood turned sour. Once Jiren was out of sight, an idea struck him. I'll help promote Lake of Smoky Waves even more, attract more loose cultivators, and see if he can still smile then. He didn't realize his spiteful thoughts aligned perfectly with the outcome Jiren wanted to achieve. Jiren had changed the way he made money and couldn't wait for more people to promote Lake of Smoky Waves. The Great Wilderness Market initially only had the inner city. But as more and more loose cultivators gathered, its scale expanded several times over. By then, it was divided into the 4 districts of East, South, West, and North, and the inner city. The 4 districts of East, South, West, and North were collectively known as the Outer City, where the lower-level loose cultivators struggling to make a living were concentrated. The inner city was the core area of the market, boasting richer spiritual energy. It also had caves specially opened for high-order cultivators, equipped with spirit-gathering arrays, making it far superior to the outer districts. As for the cost of the caves, well, 1 spirit stone a day was a sky-high price for bottom-tier loose cultivators. Jiren lived in the West District and frequently visited the West District market. He had 2 channels to sell his catch. One was to sell to restaurants and immortal vegetarian eateries, where the prices would be suppressed by the purchasing stewards, offering little profit. Setting up a stall took more time but yielded higher prices. After paying the daily stall fee of 1 fragmented spirit stone, he arrived at the West District market. By midday, loose cultivators streamed in continuously, and the shouts of sellers rose and fell. White corn for cheap. 2 crystal shards a pound. Don't miss out as you pass by. Low-quality magical artifacts on clearance. Each one a fine piece. Poison widow beast eggs on sale. Looking for a powerful spirit beast? This is the perfect choice. Quality talisman stand. 10 years of reputable service, credibility guaranteed. Jiren, walking on the muddy path and smelling odors akin to sewage, along with a urine stench from an unknown source, couldn't help but frown. Even then, he still couldn't adjust to the dirty and disordered environment of the market. Stepping carefully in his beast-skin boots to avoid the mud, it took him quite a while to find a suitable open spot. He took out a large leather sack from his storage bag and threw 13 spirit fish into it. Gather water spell. A subtle ripple of spiritual energy spread, and water gathered as if from a spring, quickly filling the sack. Spirit fish were tenacious and could survive out of water for up to half an hour without dying. A fine mesh net covered the sack to prevent the spirit fish from leaping out. The price tag was set up, green scaled carps, 1 pound for 1 fragmented spirit stone. The jade carp, weighing 6 pounds and 8 ounces, for 3 spirit stones and 4 fragmented spirits. Jiren sat on the beast skin, quietly waiting for customers. The spirit fish weren't expensive, each having its own merits compared to spirit rice. Lake of Smoky Waves had always been a forbidden zone, and spirit fish were scarce, so they weren't difficult to sell. Taoist Jia, nice haul. You've even got a jade carp. Lake of Smoky Waves is a good spot. Share some secrets with me, I've been thinking of fishing too. The fisherman's appearance in the West District Market, with a good catch and a jade carp, was the best advertisement. Loose cultivators from the West District Market, who made their living there, approached with smiles to get acquainted. Previously, Jia-ren would have definitely found a way to drive them off, lest they disturb his business. The most important part of fishing is the bait. If you want a big catch, you must use top-notch bait. Starting tomorrow, I will be selling bait, and I hope all you fellow Taoists will support my business. Certainly. The loose cultivators made some polite conversation and then scattered. In less than half an hour of setting up his stall, only the small green-scaled carps, merely 2 inches long, remained. The jade carp had also been bought by a generous customer who didn't haggle over the price. Jia-ren was in a great mood, having raked in 4 spirit stones and 2 crystal shards in such a short time. Time to stock up on goods. The materials used to make bait weren't ordinary, otherwise, they wouldn't attract spirit fish. These included green bud rice, earth dragon worm powder, yellow essence mushroom, plus a little spirit musk and some fruit wine. Having packed up his stall and remaining spirit fish, Jia-ren headed straight for familiar vendors. Taoist Jia, I've gathered another 10 earth dragon worms. Do you want them? A man with a simple, honest face and a dark red complexion stood up from his stall. He waved at Jia-ren, his face bearing an indelible smile. Earth dragon worms were considered trash-tier spirit insects, naturally beneficial creatures that spirit farmers usually bothered little with. Since Jia-ren's fishing had attracted many loose cultivators to follow suit, earth dragon worms had become a sought-after item. The increase in loose cultivators buying them had turned into extra income for the spirit farmers. I'll take all 10 earth dragon worms. And give me another 20 caddies of green bud rice. 20 caddies of green bud rice for 2 spirit stones, and 10 earth dragon worms for 1 spirit stone. That's a total of 3 spirit stones, a fair price. After saying this, Yang Bingzi rubbed his hands awkwardly. Jia-ren took the green bud rice and inspected it carefully. Not every stall could guarantee quality, and it was all too common to pass off inferior goods as superior ones. The quality is good, no inferior products mixed in. The weight is accurate. He's an honest man. The 10 earth dragon worms were of a decent size, each one over a foot long, and he was very satisfied with their quality. Let's continue to collaborate in the future. Definitely. I'm counting on earning more spirit stones with you, Taoist Jia. How about some corner worm corpses? They've been flooding the market recently, so they're cheap in bulk. Jia-ren glanced at the corner worm corpses and had no interest. He still had half a yellow essence mushroom left, which was enough. The remaining items needed were spirit musk and fruit wine. The former was quite expensive, an inferior piece, the size of the tip of his little finger, cost 1 spirit stone and 2 crystal shards. After half a day of haggling, he managed to get the price down by 2 crystal shards. The amount of spirit musk needed wasn't much, and for the version he intended to sell, he would save where he could. Finally, there was the fruit wine, a cheap spirit wine that loose cultivators loved. It cost 1 fragmented spirit stone per pot. He bought 3 pots at once, the extra for his own enjoyment. Money earned in the market is spent in the market, not a sliver of it should be taken home. All 4 spirit stones and 2 crystal shards were spent, with an extra fragmented spirit stone thrown in. Time to go back and make the bait. Jia-ren made his way to the edge of the West District without any trouble. Simple stone houses were scattered everywhere, distributed unevenly. From time to time, one could spot yellowish puddles and muddy ground. A faint stench of urine, along with traces of feces, permeated the air, making the environment no better than the slums of some backward regions. The Great Wilderness Market was located in a desolate and treacherous area, plagued by numerous bizarre demons and other monstrous creatures. The nearest human stronghold was 1,000 miles away. The only good land was planted with precious spirit rice, while ordinary rice had to be transported by merchants from afar, famously costing a tael of gold per caddy. There was no room for ordinary people to survive. Most cultivators were indifferent by nature, each clearing the snow from their own doorstep. The Great Wilderness Market was even less likely to spend effort on improving the environment, resulting in the birth of an atypical slum over time. Jia-ren cautiously avoided the pits and entered his stone house. The stone house was not big, but it had everything he needed. A resting room, a bait-making room, a kitchen, and a guest area. It had them all. Jia-ren first threw the spirit fish into a water tank, skillfully found the rice thin, and took out half a caddy of ordinary rice. The newly purchased green bud rice was still in his storage bag, not dumped into the rice bin. Security couldn't be guaranteed in the West District, where theft was common. Without the protection of a magic array, it was best to carry valuable possessions with him at all times. Half a caddy of jade-colored green bud rice and half a caddy of ordinary rice were mixed and cooked together. For lunch, he simply fried some leftover smoked fish from the morning along with some seasonal vegetables. His meal was ready. While eating his lunch, with a thought, the proficiency panel visible only to himself emerged. Name, Jiren, lifespan, 30 out of 65, realm, 3rd level of chi refinement, 232 out of 300, cultivation technique, return to origin technique 3rd level, 268 out of 300, spell, wind control skill, beginner, 98 out of 100, fireball technique, proficient, 25 out of 200, spirit eye technique, proficient, 23 out of 200, spirit shield, beginner, 79 out of 100, sun locking technique, expert, 196 out of 400, return to origin sword chi, proficient, 146 out of 200, gather water spell, beginner, 28 out of 100, tempting bait, fish, expert, 121 out of 400, skill breaking point, 0.975, Chapter 3-3 The Big Money Making Plan Jiren, a transmigrator, came with the essential golden finger, the proficiency panel. 15 days had passed since his transmigration, and he was already familiar with it. The proficiency panel, as the name suggests, allowed proficiency to grow each time a spell was used. Effort was always rewarded. Jiren, a fishing enthusiast, could only claim to have a basic understanding of bait. He had made a few simple types of bait, but his skill level wasn't high. With the help of the proficiency panel, however, his bait-making skills improved dramatically, leading to a unique craft. His deepening understanding of bait, coupled with changing materials, led to the creation of tempting bait, fish, that could be described as exquisite and highly effective in luring fish. In half a day, Jiren caught 12 green-scaled carps and 1 jade carp, while other loose cultivators caught at most 2 spirit fish. The gap was not only in fishing skills, bait was also crucial. By ensuring his secret recipe wasn't leaked, other loose cultivators had no chance of competing with him in terms of bait. If loose cultivators use specially made bait, their catch will surely increase significantly, leading to a ripple effect. Cultivators with a smaller catch won't be able to resist buying the bait, and the business will grow. Although the bait market in the Great Wilderness Market is small, the income earned should not be bad. Jiren picked up a piece of smoked fish with his chopsticks and savored it carefully. The flesh was tender and contained a faint trace of spiritual energy. Paired with a mouthful of soft and sticky green bud rice, it was quite a treat. The quality of the food ingredients is the most important. Food that has been treated with seasoning can never reach the top flavor. Green bud rice was something you never got tired of eating. It slowly supplemented spiritual energy, and long-term consumption could even improve one's physique. Earn spirit stones with bait, improve my strength, and buy treasures to extend my life. My lifespan is tragically short at 65. I absolutely don't wish to die young. For those at the 3rd level of chi refinement, living to 180 was not a problem. 65 was akin to being short-lived among cultivators. Speaking of which, this was also a problem brought on by the original host's demon hunting. In his early years, he nearly died at the hands of a beast. To save his life, he took a burning spirit pill, which overdrafted both his life and potential. 1/3 of his lifespan was consumed. Jiren was anxious to replenish his lifespan, not only because it concerned his future longevity but for an even more critical reason. Skill breaking points. As a seasoned gamer who had played countless games, he could guess their effects based on the name. Spells have limits. With the use of skill breaking points, one could surpass these normal limits to reach heights unattainable by ordinary people, thus widening the gap with regular cultivators. This was of utmost importance. After 15 days of careful observation, Jiren had confirmed the method of acquiring skill breaking points. Every day, he would gain a fixed 0.065 skill breaking points, a figure that seemed to correspond to his current lifespan limit of 65 years. Thus, 15 days amounted to exactly 0.975 skill breaking points. 1/3 of his life overdrafted meant a permanent loss of 1/3 of future skill breaking points. It was essential to increase his lifespan. There are Shaoyuan pills that can increase lifespan. I wonder if there are any secret techniques for longevity? Coupled with a proficiency panel, that would be perfect. Almost forgot, there might be cultivation techniques as well. Jiren practiced the common return to origin technique, which wasn't particularly outstanding. Its only notable feature was its inherent return to origin sword chi, specializing in combat, making it a popular choice among low-grade cultivation techniques. As someone accustomed to a secure modern life, he tried to avoid life-or-death fights unless absolutely necessary. Switching to a longevity-focused cultivation technique and staying away from such struggles was the true path. Jiren quickly finished the food on the table and started to tally his possessions, 1 spirit stone and 3 fragmented spirit stones. 135 taels of gold. 1 low-quality magical artifact, the Black Fang Sword. 25 gin of green bud rice. 1 water spirit shield talisman. 1 quicksand technique talisman. 2 sound transmission talismans. 1 portion of insect repellent powder, 1 detoxification pill, 15 pieces of specially made tempting bait, fish, 1 chunk of spirit musk the size of a little finger's pad, half a piece of yellow essence mushroom, 3 jars of fruit wine, 10 earth dragon worms, 1 trilateral storage bag, 10 gin of tallow wax. In a word, poor. The spirit stones the former host had earned were either spent pursuing dual cultivation with female cultivators in search of the Great Tao or on purchasing minor yuan elixirs to enhance his cultivation level. Aside from the magic artifact and talismans, he hadn't left Jiren much of an inheritance. The most valuable item was the low-quality magical artifact, the Black Fang Sword. Its quality wasn't good, and its price was around 15 spirit stones. First, I need to make the tempting bait to earn spirit stones. He took out 10 gin of green bud rice from the storage bag and cooked it until the grains absorbed the warm moisture, becoming crystal clear, plump, and distinct. Compared to mixed rice, the fragrance of pure spirit rice was much richer. Even though Jiren had just eaten lunch, he couldn't help but salivate. The cooked Kinya spiritual rice was set aside to cool. He put 10 thinly sliced earth dragon worm corpses into the pot to stir fry. Normally, air-dried earth dragon worms would be most effective. But there was no time. He needed to sell the bait tomorrow, and air drying was no longer an option. Adding small amounts of dry firewood each time, he controlled the heat, slowly drying the slices over a low flame. In less than half an hour, the earth dragon worm slices were roasted to a crisp brown, all moisture gone. Jiren took out a stone mortar, added the dried earth dragon worms, 10 slices of yellow essence mushroom, and 2 kion of spirit musk, then crushed them all into powder. He sprinkled the mixed powder onto the green bud rice, poured in 2 pots of fruit wine, and mixed and stirred until it was semi-dry. An unusual, thick aroma spread through the air, exuding a peculiar sweetness. Only one step remained, rolling the mixture into soybean-sized pellets by hand. After more than 2 hours of work, he had produced over 12,200 pieces of tempting bait, fish, slightly exceeding his expectations. Normally, the tempting bait would be used up in a few days, so preservation wasn't a concern. With over 12,200 pieces now, it was unclear how long they would take to sell, so he had to consider preservation. He melted the tallow wax until it boiled, then coated each piece of bait with a layer of wax for storage. The wax coating could preserve the unique fragrance for a long time, one only needed to break the wax layer to use it. In just that short time, the tempting bait, fish, had undergone an amazing transformation. Tempting bait, fish, Grandmaster, limit, it hit the limit. To continue improving, I can only use skill breaking points. The proficiency level of the bait tempting technique increased really fast. It would be great if actual spells also increased this quickly. The bait tempting technique wasn't a true cultivation skill. Each pellet of bait contributed to proficiency, hence its swift rise. There was no shortcut for spells, casting a spell only increased proficiency by a single point each time. A cost of about 4 spirit stones to make over 12,200 pieces of tempting bait is practically a windfall. These 12,200 plus pieces of tempting bait can be sold for a long time. If all are sold, I could earn 122 spirit stones. I hope everything goes smoothly, otherwise, I'll have to lower the price. After finishing with the tempting bait, I'll move on to improving other proficiencies. The wind control skill is 2 points away from leveling up. I'll upgrade it first. After Jiren deployed the wind control skill, his speed increased more than tenfold, making it a superb skill for traveling and escaping. Done. The wind control skill broke through without hindrance. Jiren felt as light as a swallow, creating a series of afterimages. His speed had increased by more than 50% compared to before. There weren't many cultivators who had achieved the skilled level in the wind control skill, but it wasn't rare either. He didn't have much of an advantage in terms of speed for the time being. Fighting comes second, survival is first. Jiren planned to make the wind control skill the second spell he raised to the maximum level. Speed is important. As long as I can run fast enough, even if the enemy is stronger, they won't be able to catch me. Provided the enemy doesn't possess a flying artifact. Flying artifacts were exclusive to top loose cultivators, sect disciples, and members of powerful clans. He wasn't strong enough yet, so for now, there was no chance of attracting such powerful enemies. With limited spiritual power at the 3rd level of Chi refinement, he could only use the wind control skill 9 times before depleting his internal spiritual power. Returning to his bed, Jiren sat cross-legged and began to meditate. He circulated the return to origin technique, running his spiritual power through the grand circulation to slowly recover the spent energy. It took more than an hour for his spiritual power to fully recover. Jiren opened his eyes, feeling refreshed. Using elixirs and spirit stones could shorten the recovery time, But being as poor as he was, he couldn't afford such luxuries. My cultivation level is still too low, and the spiritual power in my body is too scant. I must advance to the 4th layer of chi refining as soon as possible. The 1st to 3rd levels are the early stage of chi cultivation, while the 4th layer is the mid stage of chi cultivation. Spiritual power at the 4th layer is double that of the 3rd level. Reaching this stage would also greatly increase the efficiency and speed of improving proficiency levels. Chapter 4-4 Safety Hazards. Jiren focused on his cultivation, and time flew by swiftly. Before he was aware, night had fallen. After dinner, he continued to improve his proficiency level. As night approached, the West City District, having lost the hustle and bustle of daylight, was tranquil and peaceful, except for the occasional explosions and pillars of fire that suggested it was not as safe as one might imagine. Is Taoist Jia there? Jiren stopped practicing the wind control skill and peered through the window to the outside of the house. A skinny old man, wearing a gray-white Taoist robe and with medicinal dregs lingering on his body, stood outside the door, his face wreathed with a pleasant smile. Fellow Taoist, it's late and not convenient to receive guests. Jiren did not open the door, his voice tinged with a coldness designed to keep others at bay. A visit in the middle of the night does not bode well. Please do not misunderstand, dear Taoist. I am but the new neighbor who has just moved in behind you. I am an alchemist, and I have an ascension pill that I would like to share with you. The status of an alchemist was exalted, with countless loose cultivators looking to flatter and please. Using this as an introduction was universally successful. An alchemist living in the West District? Any capable alchemist would have moved to the inner city long ago and would not choose to stay in the outer city. An ascension pill? He had no interest in an ascension pill he had never heard of before. Are you joking? To think a low-level loose cultivator could concoct an elixir and ascend to immortality? Still dreaming? Jiren did not open the door and rejected. The night is already deep. Please return, Taoist friend. The ascension pill is incredibly precious. You wouldn't want to miss such an opportunity for immortality. The old man didn't take no for an answer and was unwilling to leave, attempting to push the door open. Malicious soliciting? They wouldn't force a sale or rob and murder, would they? Jiren's nerves were on edge, his hand gripping the black fang sword, palm sweating, and the few talismans he had been reluctant to use on ordinary days were all taken out. If the old man harbored ill intentions, Jiren would have no choice but to take action. Old Ma, so you've been hiding in the West District. I finally found you. You poisoned my cultivation level with a forbidden pill, deceived me of my spirit stones. I want your life. At that moment, a cultivator with a black mask on his face arrived, driven by fury in the darkness of the night and directing his flying sword to slash at Elder Ma. Elder Ma was caught off guard by the sudden turn of events and tried to use a magic artifact to defend himself, but it was too late, and he was decapitated on the spot. After the masked cultivator killed the man, he quickly took the storage bag from Elder Ma's body without the slightest pause and fled. Having witnessed everything, Jiren felt a cold chill throughout his body. He was grateful the man hadn't been blinded by a murderous rage. Otherwise, he feared he wouldn't have escaped his fate. A little while later, an enforcement division cultivator from the law enforcement office arrived, holding a special artifact to pursue the loose cultivator murderer. The enforcement division was composed of the elite of the Five Elements sect, with numerous cultivators at the late stage of chi refining in their ranks, completely overpowering regular loose cultivators. The Five Elements sect had always maintained zero tolerance towards fighting within the market. Any who dared challenge the rules would be punished severely and without leniency. Only one stayed behind to inquire. After confirming the incident was unrelated to Jiren, they took the body away. The cultivation world is too dangerous. Although it wasn't his first experience of the world's nighttime, the events of this night were a first for him. The sight of a head hitting the ground echoed in his mind, making it hard to sleep. Just because I'm safe tonight, doesn't mean I will be in the future. Jiren withdrew his gaze, concentrated and calmed his mind, and before long, he had an answer. Formation. If there was a protective formation array, safety would considerably increase. Formation, elixir, artifact, talisman, all these cultivation skills were the crystallization of cultivator wisdom, and formation was one of the highest in the myriad arts of cultivation. It was difficult to start and expensive to set up. Even a small-sized formation array for personal use would cost at least 100 spirit stones, let alone those used for trapping and harming enemies far beyond what a low-level loose cultivator could afford. For a considerable time to come, it was impossible for Jiren to obtain a formation, not even a simplified spirit talisman. Besides formation, what alternative is there? Hunter traps. The higher echelons have their methods. Lower levels only have the poor man's version. Being a cultivator doesn't mean being all-powerful. Hunter traps still have a certain effect on cultivators, especially low-level loose cultivators. In his early years, he had casually recorded the method to create gunpowder, which, when abundant, could be quite lethal. Without the timely use of defense artifacts and spells, an explosion could cause significant injury to a cultivator. Most importantly, well-buried explosives are hard to detect with spiritual sense. Taming magical beasts. Raising one strong magical beast could serve as an alarm and a defense, and in a critical moment, it could even be sacrificed. Magical beast eggs were expensive, not to mention the need for beast taming spells. A poor man's version could use a dog. A dog might not fend off cultivators but could serve as an early warning. Next would be to diversify combat tactics, since relying solely on the Gyuun sword technique and fireball technique was too simplistic. If countered, there was no room for retaliation. Prioritize improving the wind control skill. If he could run fast enough, he could avoid danger. While attack spells couldn't be enhanced in a short time, talismans or poisons could be used to bridge the gap. The former burned through spirit stones, while the latter could use a poor man's version as a stopgap. Ideas flashed through his mind, gradually clarifying his thoughts. I'll start preparing tomorrow. The original owner didn't know what he was thinking, spending 10 spirit stones to purchase the sunlocking technique so many spirit stones could have acquired several additional spells. The sunlocking technique wasn't worthless. It protected effectively against female demons harvesting yang energy by controlling the threshold gate and keeping yang locked within. Continue to enhance proficiency in the wind control skill. As long as one is alive, they must persevere relentlessly. He meditated to recover spiritual power, cultivated the wind control skill, in an endless cycle. Only when his body was weary and his brain foggy did he finally fall asleep. The sun was just rising, and the sky was clear and boundless. Jia Ren stepped outside the stone house to find the ground still smeared with bloodstains and sword cuts. He used a cleaning talisman to deal with the dried blood from the night before outside his door, feeling an indescribable complexity in his heart. It's time to earn some spirit stones. He cooked 3 pounds of mixed green bud rice for breakfast. The leftover rice was made into rice balls, along with a smoked fish, serving as lunch. Food in the market wasn't cheap, and with not many spirit stones in his pocket, saving where he could was essential. With everything ready, he headed straight for the West District Market. As usual, he paid a fragmented spirit stone for his stall fee and, taking advantage of the early hour when few cultivators were around, grabbed a fairly decent spot. He laid out a hide on the ground and sat down with his legs crossed. In front of the stall, he placed a white porcelain jar filled with bait and set up a wooden plaque with the words written in charcoal, selling specially made fish bait, 10 for 1 fragmented spirit stone. After everything was set up, Jia Ren looked over the nearby booths. Nice to meet you, Taoist friend. Could you be an alchemist? My apologies, my apologies. The West District Market was large, with thousands of loose cultivators passing through each day. It was no surprise that a fisherman like him was known to some, though compared to the vast number, this was hardly significant. White porcelain jars were typically used to hold elixirs, so it was no wonder people made a mistake, assuming elixirs without seeing the plaque. The status of alchemists was lofty, and even alchemy apprentices who had just started out were people loose cultivators were willing to make connections with. It's not an elixir, it's bait. Bait? The cultivators setting up stalls nearby looked at each other in astonishment. It was their first time encountering someone selling bait, which was quite a curiosity. They were all hard-pressed commoners, naturally, no one wanted to buy bait to foster a casual hobby. Turns out you're a fisherman, Taoist friend. It's quite interesting that you're selling bait now. Some loose cultivators recognized Jia Ren. They greeted each other with a bow, which served as an acknowledgement. Jia Ren looked around with interest at other loose cultivators' stalls, seeing demonic beast materials, monster beast meat, unknown artifact refining materials, and occasionally a few spirit talismans. Loose cultivators were poor, and those selling magic artifacts and elixirs belonged to the well-off, drawing envious glances from everyone. Jia Ren's attention was caught by a beast egg that glowed faintly, and he couldn't take his eyes off it for a long time. A black serpent's egg, a lower-grade magical beast. Raising it as a monster pet can help you guard your home and control beasts against enemies. The black serpent is naturally poisonous, definitely your best choice of monster pet. It's not expensive, just 50 spirit stones for a fellow Taoist. The black serpent's egg tempted Jia Ren. Its ability to guard a home and its poison appealed to him, but the price. Excuse me, farewell. A poor man's smile appeared across Jia Ren's face as if he had heard nothing. The eager vendor's smile froze on his face. Too expensive, can't afford it. After glancing over a few more booths, Jia Ren felt the disparities of the world and headed back to his stall with a heavy heart. If he sold all 12,000 tempting baits, he would be a cultivator worth 100 spirit stones. Taoist Jia, the bait is good, but can you give a cheaper price? A familiar loose cultivator walked over, eyeing the merchandise at the stall. Having seen the results of yesterday's bait trial and comparing it to using earth dragon worms, the difference was evident. The bait is not expensive, and I believe you understand its effect. Seeing as it's your first time doing business with me, I'll give you an extra one for each fragmented spirit stone. The cost of making the bait was very low, making it extremely profitable. For every fragmented spirit stone, 100 baits, Jia-ren made a profit. What was most important, however, was the bait-making technique. This showed the importance of cultivation skills. Thank you, Taoist friend. Even if the bait were expensive, I would still buy it, saving a bit wherever possible, the customer thought. 55 baits. The customer took the baits, which were slightly smaller than before, and frowned. Crushing the wax casing of one, he smelled an aroma far richer than that of the complimentary sample and no longer minded the bait's smaller size. For every loose cultivator you refer to buy from me, I'll give you a 10% commission in bait. Jia-ren added. If there are enough people, you won't need to spend spirit stones to buy bait in the future. To rely on bait sales for earning spirit stones, it was first necessary to establish a reputation and spread the word far and wide. By himself, there was only so much he could influence in terms of scope and area. Using his modern experience, he understood that the promotion method of giving rebates would fully harness initiative. Certainly. The loose cultivator left with a beaming smile. A good start. He earned 5 broken spirits on his first sale. As time passed, more and more cultivators came and went. The majority of loose cultivators merely stopped briefly at the stall, with few making purchases. Those who did were from yesterday's trial. Yet even so, there were very few repeat customers, with only 135 baits sold in total. 1 spirit stone and 3 fragmented spirits were credited to his account. Jia-ren was clear about one thing. To earn more spirit stones, he could set up a stall by the Lake of Smoky Waves. There, the demand for bait was high and the amount used great. The fishing catch was the best advertisement. Unfortunately, the safety hazard was too great. Earning an excess of spirit stones would undoubtedly bring trouble. You can never earn all the spirit stones in the world. Selling at the West District Market may be slow, but it's safe and stable. The latter is extremely important. Chapter 5-5 Insect Control Scripture, Wind Control Skill Proficiency Level +1. Wind Control Skill was not a combat spell and could be used anytime, anywhere. When his spiritual power was depleted, he would meditate to recover in his spare time, repeating this cycle. While running his stall to earn spirit stones, he didn't waste any time increasing his proficiency level. Eating rice balls and smoked fish, time flew quickly. As the golden crow descended in the west, the sky gradually darkened. The bait sales were poor in the afternoon. He only sold 10, which was just enough to cover the cost of the stall. Jia-ren was not in a hurry. Good wine needs no bush. Once my reputation is established, relying on the exorbitant profits from the bait, it will be hard not to earn spirit stones. The only concern is how long I can sustain the business before the spirit fish in the Lake of Smoky Waves are exhausted. It's time to pack up. Jia-ren was in no rush to leave the West District Market, as there were still items to be purchased. Sulfur, saltpeter, charcoal, dogs, poison, talismans. Sulfur is used in small amounts for artifact refining, saltpeter can be used to make ice, and charcoal is simple to buy or make myself. Those aren't hard to find. Except for dogs. Not many cultivators keep dogs. Spirit farmers might keep them to guard their fields. Maybe I could ask fellow cultivator Yang Bingzi for help. I'll put that aside for now. Jia-ren followed the flow of people, his gaze sweeping over each stall, looking for treasures he could use or opportunities to pick up some bargains. This was one of the few pleasures for loose cultivators. However, there were few who found such bargains, while countless others made mistakes. 5-colored mother brocade chicken, on sale cheap, only 3 spirit stones. 3 spirit stones? That is cheap indeed. The 5-colored mother brocade chicken was gentle by nature and could be eaten. The hens laid spirit eggs, which sold for at least 5 spirit stones each. Many loose cultivators came upon hearing this, hoping to snag a bargain. Jia-ren was no exception and reached in to touch the chicken, then left expressionlessly. Something is definitely wrong. My hand that touched the 5-colored mother brocade chicken is smeared with colorful paint. The vibrant colors are completely faked with dyes. Trying to scam people with paint that's not even dry? That's not very professional. I have to leave immediately to avoid being extorted by the stall owner. Just as he took a few steps away, Jia-ren vaguely sensed something and looked down. A hand has stealthily made its way to the storage bag at my waist and is attempting to unhook it. Let go. A pickpocket is trying to steal my storage bag. That's way too bold. This is all I own, and I can't afford to lose it. Jia Ren's left hand secured the storage bag, and with a thought, his right hand had drawn a low-quality magical artifact, the Black Fang Sword. The Black Fang Sword glowed with spiritual energy, ready to slash at any moment. This display scared the nearby loose cultivators, who hastily cleared a large space, fearing they might be caught in the fallout. The thief, an unremarkable-looking youth, saw the theft had been discovered and skillfully darted into the crowd of cultivators, melting away like a drop in the ocean. This sword was more for intimidation. I had no real intention of using it. Jia Ren dared not fight in the market, nor did he wish to go to the law enforcement office. As loose cultivators said, the law enforcement office was a bunch of demons who devoured men without spitting out their bones. Go in innocent, and you'd come out with an empty wallet. It's really chaotic here. The thief might bear a grudge and attack at night. I must buy something to ensure my safety through the night. A man without foresight will soon have troubles at hand. Jia Ren prepared for the worst, getting ready as soon as possible. Sulfur, saltpeter, and charcoal were quickly found at makeshift stalls. A few dozen gold could buy quite a bit. Lime? His eyes lit up when they landed on lime. I should buy some lime to carry with me. If I run into pickpockets again, I can use it to greet their faces. The key point is not to use spiritual power, which won't attract the enforcement team. He decisively purchased several packs of quicklime to process carefully back at his dwelling. Poison is difficult to get. It wasn't that there was no poison on the stalls, but the ones targeting cultivators were not cheap. A small dose of spirit-severing powder cost 1 spirit stone. Too expensive. It's more economical to purchase talismans. After a round of shopping, he had bought quite a few generic alternatives without spending many spirit stones. They can temporarily serve as transitional items until I have enough spirit stones on hand to switch to array talismans. Eternal Spring Technique? Jia Ren stopped at a talisman stall, intending to buy a water spirit shield talisman for self-protection, when he unexpectedly spotted the cultivation techniques being sold by the stall owner. The stall offered 4 types of cultivation techniques: Eternal Spring Technique, Return to Origin Technique, Fiery Sun Technique, and Profound Yin Skill. How many spirit stones for the Eternal Spring Technique? The Eternal Spring Technique was a wood attribute cultivation technique, not proficient in combat, mainly for spiritual energy and injury recovery, with some added longevity benefits. However, the effects on longevity were uncertain. This must be the easiest longevity-related cultivation technique for me to find. Recovery of spiritual energy and longevity are essential. Faster recovery can prolong the time I can spend grinding proficiency levels, and increased longevity enhances daily breakthrough points. The most important aspect is that it's cheap. Perhaps there are better techniques out there, but I cannot afford such luxuries for now. 3 spirit stones, including the complete cultivation technique from the 1st to the 9th level of Chi refinement. The stall owner perked up, scrutinizing Jia Ren. Can it be any cheaper? 3 spirit stones, non-negotiable. The stall owner responded icily, paying no further attention to Jia Ren. The price of 3 spirit stones for a Chi refinement fundamental technique was normal, not excessively marked up. Jia Ren had a total of 2 spirit stones and 5 broken spirits on hand, and he still had to consider the fee for his stall space tomorrow. He only had 2 spirit stones and 4 fragmented spirits to spend. Is it possible to use beta in place of spirit stones? What? I don't accept trash. Are you buying or not? If not, don't waste my time. When the stall owner saw Jia Ren take out the bait tempting technique, his face turned as black as the bottom of a pot. He had a fiery temper and bluntly shooed Jia Ren away. Jia Ren couldn't be bothered to look at the stall owner's face any longer and turned to leave. With such a foul temper, it's no wonder you can't make any money. The Eternal Spring Technique isn't exclusive to one seller, there are other options. Insect Control Scripture? Jia Ren stopped at another stall, his attention drawn to a gray jade slip engraved with the insect control scripture. The stall owner was an elderly cultivator with pale, long hair. He appeared to be nearing his life's end. Even though his Taoist robe was starched and neat, it couldn't hide the smell of old age and decay. The elderly cultivator opened his murky eyes and gave Jia Ren a brief look, his age-worn voice following shortly. Young friend, are you interested in controlling insects? It's rare to see a cultivator interested in insects these days. Black bugs crawled out from the edges and collar of the elderly cultivator's robe, increasing in number, constantly moving across his clothes and skin, looking as if they had made a home on him. The terrifying sight could scare someone with trypophobia half to death. Jia Ren, too, was deeply shocked, instinctively backing away a few steps. Are you still interested now? The elderly cultivator's face carried a mischievous, sly smile. On the brink of death, yet his childlike spirit remained intact. If the insect control scripture is truly useful, what is there to fear from insects? I had considered buying a dog earlier for nighttime vigilance. Insects can do the same. Moreover, smaller insects are more concealed and difficult to notice. They would be an excellent tool for a night watch. Jiren could tell that the old cultivator's teasing was more playful than a true desire to turn him into a monstrosity. Otherwise, an insect control scripture with such hidden dangers wouldn't be worth cultivating. Controlling insects is not much different from controlling beasts. They're both cultivation skills. What is there to fear? Jiren approached the stall, picked up the insect control scripture jade slip, and placed it against his forehead to examine it. The readable section was limited, mostly sealed by restrictions and not available for free perusal. May I ask how much the insect control scripture is priced at? Just from the part Jiren could see, his interest was piqued, so he inquired about the price. The elderly cultivator's smile faded, reverting to the demeanor Jiren had first encountered. 100 spirit stones, non-negotiable. 100 spirit stones? That's practically robbery. Too expensive, I'll take my leave. Jiren put down the insect control scripture and turned to leave. But after a couple of steps, he seemed to think of something and suddenly looked back. May I know if the insect control scripture can be sold in separate parts? Chapter 6 to 6 Wondrous Uses of Insects, selling them separately. The elderly cultivator looked at Jiren with surprise and skepticism before laughing outright. I'm truly short of funds. 100 spirit stones is a sky-high price. I am indeed very interested in the insect control scripture and cannot afford to pay all at once. Currently, I can only offer 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones. If the elder is willing, would you sell me the basic portion of the insect control scripture that is equivalent in value? Any secret technique usually doesn't come cheap. The elderly cultivator dared to ask for 100 spirit stones. Either he's quoting an outrageous price, or he believes the insect control scripture is worth that much. Upon a brief examination, Jiren saw that the insect control scripture recorded extensive information on various spirit insects, and many incredible techniques for controlling and using insects to defeat enemies. As a modern person, who would avoid getting an injection to spare themselves pain, how could one wish to engage in a life-or-death struggle with others? If a life-threatening situation did arise, it's better to have insects fight to the death than to risk one's own life. Controlling insects and beasts each has its own advantages. Although insects may be much weaker individually, they do have one major advantage. They mature quickly. This aligned quite well with my psychological expectations. The elderly cultivator doesn't have much time left to live. Encountering him was luck, and missing this opportunity might mean lifelong regret. You want to acquire the insect control scripture for 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones? I must say, you've got some nerve. By the end of the elderly cultivator's speech, his tone became harsh, and the aura of a 9th level of chi refinement cultivator pressed down. So powerful. The difference between the 9th level of chi refinement and the 3rd level of chi refinement was so great, it was almost like facing a primordial fierce beast. My face turned pale, and my hands and feet felt as cold as ice. To rashly offend a powerful individual one couldn't afford to provoke was a sure path to death. I had already tried my best to avoid trouble, yet it still found me. Elder, I meant no offense and am willing to compensate with all of my spirit stones. A dying man could do anything crazy, he shouldn't be provoked. I would rather suffer a financial loss than face an unexpected disaster. He laid down 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones on the stall. With his back soaked through, Jiren apologized and turned to leave. Interesting. The old cultivator said. You are very much to Master Lu's liking. Knowing when to advance and retreat is the key to a long life. If Master Lu were a decade younger, I wouldn't mind taking you as a disciple. I'll take the spirit stones. As you wished, I'll teach you a portion of the insect control scripture. I hope you can gather enough spirit stones before my lifespan ends, and don't foolishly expect to get the insect control scripture for nothing. Upon finishing his speech, Master Lu took out a blank jade slip and began to record. In a moment, he tossed the jade slip to Jiren. Get going. Don't stand there and get in the way, disturbing Master Lu's business. After handing over the jade slip, he shooed Jiren away as if ridding himself of a fly. This. Thank you, Elder. I take my leave. I thought I had suffered a big loss today. It would take a day or 2 to earn back the lost spirit stones. I never expected such a dramatic turnaround, actually obtaining a portion of the insect control scripture. I didn't dare linger too long, so as not to further offend the unpredictable Master Lu. I left with unease in my heart, unsure whether the portion of the insect control scripture provided by Master Lu would be of any use. Hopefully, it wasn't useless. Without any mishaps along the way, he safely returned to his dwelling. Shutting the door, Jiren pressed the jade slip to his forehead and began to carefully examine it. The jade slip didn't contain much content, but it wasn't scant either. It encompassed the essence of the insect control scripture's introductory part, definitely worth far more than 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones, at least 10 spirit stones. Scored a huge bargain. Controlling mundane insects and commanding low-level spirit insects should be no problem. Jiren held the jade slip close and committed the information to memory. There were gaps in the insect control scripture. The core techniques for insect control were few. Mostly, it was basic introductory knowledge, including introductions to insects, their habits, food, abilities, and breeding methods. The grade was limited to low-level spirit insects, at most capable of affecting and threatening those at the initial stages of chi refinement. Want more advanced parts? Well, bring the spirit stones. Today was a lesson indeed. In the future, when dealing with cultivators far stronger than myself, I must be doubly cautious. Cultivators are fickle and prone to anger, and may kill you on a whim if they dislike you. Without the ability to protect myself, I should avoid interacting with high-order cultivators as much as possible. Reflecting on his experiences of the day, Jiren still couldn't shake a chill running down his spine. Surviving in this perilous world is exceedingly difficult. The slightest mistake could result in death and the end of one's path. The basics of the insect control scripture are broadly divided into 4 parts: insect identification, insect breeding, insect control, and finally, insect taming. Insect identification is the discernment of insects, understanding their habits, and distinguishing their abilities. Insect breeding involves the nurturing of spirit insects, along with specific breeding methods and corresponding diets for each different type of spirit insect. Even with wild, undomesticated insects, the insect control scripture allows them to be forcibly controlled. The portion I obtained only allows me to forcibly control mundane insects. Any target with the slightest spiritual power is immune. Even the earth dragon worms, used as bait in the bait tempting technique, are beyond my control. The essence of the technique lies in insect taming and insect breeding. They complement each other, combining nurturing and control into one. First, I need to master the basics and control mundane insects. Jiren read through the insect control scripture and began to experiment with the basic insect control technique. Finding material for experimentation is easy, just stepping outside is sufficient. Outside the stone house, stinking puddles were everywhere, natural gathering places for mosquitoes and flies. Cultivators are not without means of cleanliness. The cleaning spell and the affordable cleaning talismans can both quickly take care of sanitation. Alas, cultivators pursue the great Tao, and most lead simple lives, focusing on cleaning the snow from their own doorsteps rather than concerning themselves with the frost on others' roofs. The great wilderness market wouldn't waste energy cleaning up for lowly loose cultivators. They say the inner city is quite clean. He had never been to the inner city but had heard the rumors. Jiren easily found a foul-smelling puddle teeming with mosquitoes and flies just 3 yards away, their buzzing loud and clear. Mastering the insect control technique isn't difficult, especially when controlling mundane insects. Insect control technique. Suppressing the urge to flee, he targeted the puddle and employed the newly learned insect control technique. It worked. Jiren felt a faint connection and could use his thoughts to control the actions of the mosquitoes. This feeling is rather marvelous, similar to controlling a character in a video game. Games and reality differ. By comparison, this is much more real. Come here. The mosquito buzzed its wings, circling in front of his eyes. He commanded it to fly up and down. The control response was swift, only diminishing when it flew beyond 30 feet. This feels quite good. It's just that their power is too weak to be of use in battle. Could I possibly send mosquitoes to bite the opponent during a fight? Would they even be able to penetrate defenses? After being nourished by spiritual energy, cultivators are not comparable to ordinary people. Their skin is much tougher. Not to mention defensive spells like the spirit chi protective barrier that would easily keep mosquitoes at bay. They're not expected to be useful in combat, practically useless with less than 0.1 combat power. But mosquitoes have other uses. If direct combat won't work, then it's time for unconventional tactics. As someone with rich experience from the information explosion era, I have a considerable advantage in creative thinking over the locals. The first thing that came to mind was biological warfare. Similar to the Black Death of medieval times, which was spread by rats. I could use mosquitoes as a long-range poison delivery tool. Mosquitoes are common, and normal cultivators wouldn't be overly cautious around them. I can use mosquitoes to carry poison, delivering it into the target's food or water, silently and stealthily killing them. Mundane insects have their unique uses. If used well, they can definitely play a significant role. Chapter 6 to 6 Wondrous Uses of Insects. Selling them separately. The elderly cultivator looked at Jiren with surprise and skepticism before laughing outright. I'm truly short of funds. 100 spirit stones is a sky-high price. I am indeed very interested in the insect control scripture and cannot afford to pay all at once. Currently, I can only offer 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones. If the elder is willing, would you sell me the basic portion of the insect control scripture that is equivalent in value? Any secret technique usually doesn't come cheap. The elderly cultivator dared to ask for 100 spirit stones. Either he's quoting an outrageous price, or he believes the insect control scripture is worth that much. Upon a brief examination, Jiren saw that the insect control scripture recorded extensive information on various spirit insects, and many incredible techniques for controlling and using insects to defeat enemies. As a modern person, who would avoid getting an injection to spare themselves pain, how could one wish to engage in a life-or-death struggle with others? If a life-threatening situation did arise, it's better to have insects fight to the death than to risk one's own life. Controlling insects and beasts each has its own advantages. Although insects may be much weaker individually, they do have one major advantage. They mature quickly. This aligned quite well with my psychological expectations. The elderly cultivator doesn't have much time left to live, encountering him was luck, and missing this opportunity might mean lifelong regret. You want to acquire the insect control scripture for 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones? I must say, you've got some nerve. By the end of the elderly cultivator's speech, his tone became harsh, and the aura of a 9th level of chi refinement cultivator pressed down. So powerful. The difference between the 9th level of chi refinement and the 3rd level of chi refinement was so great, it was almost like facing a primordial fierce beast. My face turned pale, and my hands and feet felt as cold as ice. To rashly offend a powerful individual one couldn't afford to provoke was a sure path to death. I had already tried my best to avoid trouble, yet it still found me. Elder, I meant no offense and am willing to compensate with all of my spirit stones. A dying man could do anything crazy, he shouldn't be provoked. I would rather suffer a financial loss than face an unexpected disaster. He laid down 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones on the stall. With his back soaked through, Jiren apologized and turned to leave. Interesting. The old cultivator said. You are very much to Master Lu's liking. Knowing when to advance and retreat is the key to a long life. If Master Lu were a decade younger, I wouldn't mind taking you as a disciple. I'll take the spirit stones. As you wished, I'll teach you a portion of the insect control scripture. I hope you can gather enough spirit stones before my lifespan ends, and don't foolishly expect to get the insect control scripture for nothing. Upon finishing his speech, Master Lu took out a blank jade slip and began to record. In a moment, he tossed the jade slip to Jiren. Get going. Don't stand there and get in the way, disturbing Master Lu's business. After handing over the jade slip, he shooed Jiren away as if ridding himself of a fly. This. Thank you, Elder. I take my leave. I thought I had suffered a big loss today, it would take a day or 2 to earn back the lost spirit stones. I never expected such a dramatic turnaround, actually obtaining a portion of the insect control scripture. I didn't dare linger too long, so as not to further offend the unpredictable Master Lu. I left with unease in my heart, unsure whether the portion of the insect control scripture provided by Master Lu would be of any use. Hopefully, it wasn't useless. Without any mishaps along the way, he safely returned to his dwelling. Shutting the door, Jiren pressed the jade slip to his forehead and began to carefully examine it. The jade slip didn't contain much content, but it wasn't scant either. It encompassed the essence of the insect control scripture's introductory part, definitely worth far more than 2 whole and 4 fractional spirit stones, at least 10 spirit stones. Scored a huge bargain. Controlling mundane insects and commanding low-level spirit insects should be no problem. Jiren held the jade slip close and committed the information to memory. There were gaps in the insect control scripture. The core techniques for insect control were few. Mostly, it was basic introductory knowledge, including introductions to insects, their habits, food, abilities, and breeding methods. The grade was limited to low-level spirit insects, at most capable of affecting and threatening those at the initial stages of chi refinement. Want more advanced parts? Well, bring the spirit stones. Today was a lesson indeed. In the future, when dealing with cultivators far stronger than myself, I must be doubly cautious. Cultivators are fickle and prone to anger, and may kill you on a whim if they dislike you. Without the ability to protect myself, I should avoid interacting with high-order cultivators as much as possible. Reflecting on his experiences of the day, Jiren still couldn't shake a chill running down his spine. Surviving in this perilous world is exceedingly difficult, the slightest mistake could result in death and the end of one's path. The basics of the insect control scripture are broadly divided into 4 parts: insect identification, insect breeding, insect control, and finally, insect taming. Insect identification is the discernment of insects, understanding their habits, and distinguishing their abilities. Insect breeding involves the nurturing of spirit insects, along with specific breeding methods and corresponding diets for each different type of spirit insect. Even with wild, undomesticated insects, the insect control scripture allows them to be forcibly controlled. The portion I obtained only allows me to forcibly control mundane insects. Any target with the slightest spiritual power is immune. Even the earth dragon worms, used as bait in the bait tempting technique, are beyond my control. The essence of the technique lies in insect taming and insect breeding. They complement each other, combining nurturing and control into one. First, I need to master the basics and control mundane insects. Jiren read through the insect control scripture and began to experiment with the basic insect control technique. Finding material for experimentation is easy, just stepping outside is sufficient. Outside the stone house, stinking puddles were everywhere, natural gathering places for mosquitoes and flies. Cultivators are not without means of cleanliness. The cleaning spell and the affordable cleaning talismans can both quickly take care of sanitation. Alas, cultivators pursue the great Tao, and most lead simple lives, focusing on cleaning the snow from their own doorsteps rather than concerning themselves with the frost on others' roofs. The great wilderness market wouldn't waste energy cleaning up for lowly loose cultivators. They say the inner city is quite clean. He had never been to the inner city but had heard the rumors. Jiren easily found a foul-smelling puddle teeming with mosquitoes and flies just 3 yards away, their buzzing loud and clear. Mastering the insect control technique isn't difficult, especially when controlling mundane insects. Insect control technique. Suppressing the urge to flee, he targeted the puddle and employed the newly learned insect control technique. It worked. Jiren felt a faint connection and could use his thoughts to control the actions of the mosquitoes. This feeling is rather marvelous, similar to controlling a character in a video game. Games and reality differ. By comparison, this is much more real. Come here. The mosquito buzzed its wings, circling in front of his eyes. He commanded it to fly up and down. The control response was swift, only diminishing when it flew beyond 30 feet. This feels quite good. It's just that their power is too weak to be of use in battle. Could I possibly send mosquitoes to bite the opponent during a fight? Would they even be able to penetrate defenses? After being nourished by spiritual energy, cultivators are not comparable to ordinary people. Their skin is much tougher. Not to mention defensive spells like the Spirit Chi protective barrier that would easily keep mosquitoes at bay. They're not expected to be useful in combat, practically useless with less than 0.1 combat power. But mosquitoes have other uses. If direct combat won't work, then it's time for unconventional tactics. As someone with rich experience from the information explosion era, I have a considerable advantage in creative thinking over the locals. The first thing that came to mind was biological warfare. Similar to the Black Death of medieval times, which was spread by rats. I could use mosquitoes as a long-range poison delivery tool. Mosquitoes are common, and normal cultivators wouldn't be overly cautious around them. I can use mosquitoes to carry poison, delivering it into the target's food or water, silently and stealthily killing them. Mundane insects have their unique uses. If used well, they can definitely play a significant role. Chapter 7-7 Middleman. The insect control technique made controlling ordinary mosquitoes quite simple. There was practically no skill involved. Initially, Jiren could only control one target, but with proficiency, controlling 10 mosquitoes at once posed no problem. The spiritual energy consumption was minimal. Even though Jiren was only at the 3rd level of Chi refinement, he effortlessly controlled 100 mosquitoes, forming a vast mosquito army. The proficiency level is rising so quickly. Insect control technique, Mortal, Apprentice, 52 out of 100. It's a pity it's an incomplete version with a low upper limit, but it'll have to do. The proficiency level of the incomplete insect control technique was far inferior to that of regular spells, and its potential was severely limited. In a moment's time, Jiren had maxed out the technique's proficiency. Insect control technique, Mortal, Skilled, Limit. At the skilled level, the sensitivity of the insect control technique increased, with its control and influence range expanding by at least a third. Jiren ordered over 300 mosquitoes to stand guard outside the stone house and attack any approaching targets. I feel a little safer now. How ridiculous, feeling a sense of security from mosquitoes. But it was true, if external enemies invaded, the mosquitoes would indeed be the first line of defense. Having gotten a taste of success with the insect control technique, Jiren continued his studies. Mortal insects were merely transient, cultivating his own spirit insects was the true way forward. Although spirit insects weren't powerful in combat, belonging to the bottom tier of their rank, their strengths were obvious. Many spirit insects had colonial traits. Once they reached a significant scale, even cultivators of the same rank would have to give them a wide berth. The most famous were undoubtedly the spirit-devouring ants. A swarm of these ants once occurred in the great wilderness, numbering in the hundreds of billions. They left no living creature in their wake, and even high-rank magical beasts were forced to flee in disarray. Having mastered the insect control technique, Jiren took a keen interest in the spirit-devouring ants. Perhaps he might be able to control them in the future. The best place to find spirit insects would be the great wilderness, but it's too dangerous. Not an option. The second option is a spirit field. In the spirit field were plenty of spirit insects like the earth dragon worm and the corner worm, all potential targets for cultivation. The incomplete version of the insect control technique only documented a few low-grade spirit insects, all of which Jiren committed to memory. Tomorrow, I'll find fellow Taoist Yang Bingzi. Worst case, I'll spend some fragmented spirit stones to visit his spirit field. The mosquito defensive line was established, but it was far from enough. Sulfur, saltpeter, charcoal. Jiren made gunpowder with ease by recalling the appropriate proportions from memory. He conceptualized two types of traps using gunpowder as the main component, burning traps and explosive traps. The former would deal burn damage when targets fell into them, while the latter relied mainly on explosive damage. Jiren decided against the former, opting for explosive traps instead. He made this choice because cultivators possessed numerous life-saving methods, and ordinary fire couldn't compare to a cultivator's spiritual fire. Sustained burns from mortal fire wouldn't have an immediate effect and were unlikely to inflict lethal wounds. Explosive traps, however, focused on detonation, catching cultivators off guard. The sound of the explosion could also serve as a warning for Jiren and potentially attract the enforcement team. He didn't expect the gunpowder to inflict much damage on cultivators. It was primarily intended for nighttime defense in the early stages. Adding iron shrapnel to the gunpowder barrels will increase their lethality. Jiren decisively set to work, and before long, several sealed small gunpowder barrels were ready. Next came the problem of igniting the gunpowder barrels. Ignition talismans as triggers? Or mechanical triggers? Ignition talismans emitted fluctuations in spiritual energy, inevitably alerting cultivators. The latter option involved constructing a simple mechanism connected to a fire striker holding an ember. Triggering the mechanism would cause the gunpowder barrels fuse to contact the ember in the fire striker, achieving detonation. Jiren dug pits throughout the night, focusing on placing traps in strategic locations like in front of the door and windows. Carefully finished with the arrangements, his sense of security was greatly bolstered. There was, however, one hazard. The traps could accidentally injure me. To avoid becoming a victim of a gunpowder explosion, the best course of action would be to dig tunnels and a secret chamber underground. Constructing tunnels and a secret chamber would allow him to escape successfully if confronted by a powerful foe. Jiren had entertained similar ideas from the beginning, but unfortunately, he hadn't mastered any relevant earth element spells. Relying on manual labor was time-consuming, laborious, and inefficient, so the idea was temporarily shelved. Once I can control earth dragon worms and corner worms in a few days, I can make them do the hard labor. I'll just need to supervise. Time to grind the wind control skill. The next day, Jiren had rested exceptionally well, his essence, energy, and spirit were abundant. Carefully avoiding the traps, he had breakfast and then headed to the West District Market to set up his stall. He paid the stall fee with the single fragmented spirit stone he had, leaving his pockets completely empty of spirit stones. Just as he found a suitable spot to set up his stall, a familiar face furtively approached him. It was the loose cultivator who had purchased 55 pieces of bait tempting technique the day before. Fellow Taoist, you've finally arrived. The bait is indeed effective. Give me 100 pieces today. The loose cultivator's face was flushed, and he was in high spirits. The bait tempting technique's effectiveness from yesterday had yielded a handsome catch. Unlike the initial trial version, the bait tempting technique he subsequently produced had an increasingly higher proficiency level, making its effects even better than the trial version Jiren had previously provided. Anyone who had used this top-notch bait would thereafter look down on earth dragon worms and other low-grade bait. I'll give you an extra 10 pieces, fellow Taoist. May your catch be bountiful. As a regular customer who would likely continue to support the business, Jiren was happy to offer a discount. Many thanks, fellow Taoist. Tucking away the bait, the loose cultivator put on a mask and hurriedly departed. He wants to keep all the profit for himself. Not only did he not help promote a bait tempting technique, but he also sold his catch in other trading areas. He's trying to monopolize the high-quality bait and prevent other loose cultivators in the West District from finding out about it. Jiren always set up his stall on a main road in the West District and had never seen this person selling spirit fish. This isn't good for me. Jiren pocketed a spirit stone, feeling a bit conflicted. What about trust between cultivators? At that moment, several figures who had seen the bait-buying loose cultivator depart finally showed up, converging on Jiaren's stall. The bait that landed over 30 spirit fish yesterday was bought here? So secretive, trying to stop us from getting rich. What a petty fellow. The loose cultivators ignored Jiaren while exchanging information among themselves. He caught over 30 spirit fish? That would probably sell for over 10 spirit stones. No wonder he bought 100 pieces of bait today. A flash of envy crossed Jiaren's mind, quickly replaced by a faint premonition that he was going to rake in a considerable amount of spirit stones today. How much is the bait selling for? Don't try to rip us off just because we're new faces. We want the high-quality bait. If it's good, we'll be regular customers. Loose cultivators weren't fools, they would swarm wherever there was a profit to be made. 5 days ago, Jiaren had earned 6 fragmented spirit stones selling spirit fish, which attracted a flock of loose cultivators to follow suit at Lake of Smoky Waves. That was the best example. That cultivator named Shen wanted to hog all the profits, but the other loose cultivators weren't idiots. How could he possibly keep it from them? Top quality bait, 1 fragmented spirit stone for 10 pieces. It's absolutely effective. The quality needed no further explanation, the loose cultivator named Shen had already proven it with results. 50 pieces of bait. 60 pieces of bait. The loose cultivators eagerly took out their spirit stones to buy, then rushed towards Lake of Smoky Waves, afraid the spirit fish would be gone if they were even a moment late. Moments later, another sneaky fellow emerged from afar. Is there a discount for bulk bait purchases? Jiaren was momentarily stunned, then seemed to understand something. The more bait you buy, the more extra pieces you get. How many extra pieces for a purchase of over 1,000? Just as I thought. This guy is probably a reseller, looking to buy in bulk from me and then sell it at Lake of Smoky Waves for a profit. The high hook rate of the top quality bait, coupled with the prospect of an abundant catch, meant the bait was selling at an alarming rate. Offering to buy 1,000 pieces at once proved the man had a keen eye. If the profit margin on a business is high enough, someone will eventually do it if you don't. How about 150 complimentary pieces for every 1,000 purchased? Let's settle on that price. Maybe we can continue to work together in the future. The reseller didn't haggle and quickly completed the transaction. 10 spirit stones in hand, Jiaren had closed a major deal. Chapter 8 Spirit Bud Elixir. As long as there's a profit to be made, if the profit margin is high enough, people will take risks. Second-hand dealers selling bait certainly wouldn't price them at 1 fragmented spirit stone for 10 units. If they're greedy, they might mark it up by more than 50%. How much they can earn is their business. Jiaren didn't envy them. You might make a lot of money, but I will never lose and am safer than you. Adding a selling channel and selling as much bait as possible was a good thing for Jiaren. As it turned out, the bait business had started to gain some fame. Consequently, Jiaren could no longer brush his proficiency level or restore spiritual energy with the same indifference as yesterday. Loose cultivators came by from time to time to inquire. As soon as they heard it was fish bait, they seemed relieved, as if they had finally found what they were looking for. The bait tempting technique sold in dribs and drabs. Although it didn't match the morning's sales, at least half of the stock was sold. By midday, Jiaren's earnings in spirit stones had reached a whopping 20, which surprised even him. In terms of cost, the over 2,000 baits sold had cost less than 1 spirit stone to make, yet they earned him 20 spirit stones. Indeed, a windfall profit. Fellow Taoist, your bait business is doing well. May your wealth flow widely. Are you interested in this magic artifact? The neighboring stalls were almost empty, with very few customers and little profit. Seeing the steady influx of spirit stones to Jiaren, the loose cultivators were red with envy. The Lake of Smoky Waves is small, and there are not many spirit fish, so there's not much to be made. Jiaren responded perfunctorily. While feeling great, he also felt a bit heavy-hearted. He always had the feeling that he was being watched. The loose cultivator's scrutiny made him somewhat nervous. 20 spirit stones are nice, but it's too hot to handle for someone with such low cultivation level. It would be best to exchange them for something that could save his life, or for elixirs that could improve his cultivation level. Thanks to the proficiency panel, Jiaren's cultivation progress with the return to origin technique was not slow. In just a few days, he had maxed out the proficiency of the 3rd level of Qi refinement, slightly speeding up his cultivation. He decided not to switch cultivation techniques for now, using the newly acquired spirit stones to buy elixirs. Unless he hit the cultivation bottleneck, he should be able to break through to the 4th layer of Qi refining in a few days. He would wait until the breakthrough to the 4th layer of Qi refining before changing cultivation techniques, to avoid the delay in breakthrough time caused by recultivating a new technique. Time at the stall flew by quickly, and without waiting for dusk, Jiaren closed his stall early. He isn't here? I wanted to buy spirit insect eggs from fellow Taoist Yang Bingzi. He first visited the stall Yang Bingzi usually frequented, but he wasn't there. He didn't show up yesterday, and he's still absent today. Could something have happened to him? He quickly dismissed the thought from his mind. Not every loose cultivator at the market could guarantee setting up their stall daily, unless they had a rapid way to earn spirit stones. Otherwise, the accumulated stall rental fees alone were a significant expense. Spirit farmers mainly sold spirit rice, and with limited individual quantities, permanent residency at the market wasn't possible. Generally, loose cultivators wanting to buy spirit rice went to the rice shops in the Great Wilderness Market. First, I'll buy some elixirs to improve my cultivation level. Tomorrow, I'll see if fellow Taoist Yang Bingzi shows up in the trading area. If not, I'll have to make a trip to Grand Wilderness Mountain. The idea of buying spirit insect eggs had to be put on hold until tomorrow. Jia Ren didn't purchase elixirs from the market stalls but chose to go to a specialized elixir shop instead. Elixirs from stalls were cheap, but there was no assurance of their quality. Many loose cultivators passed off faulty or low-quality elixirs as good ones. Elixirs weren't like other treasures that could be used even if slightly inferior. Poor quality elixirs contained many toxins. Consuming substandard elixirs could lead to a buildup of toxins in the body, not only making future cultivation level improvement more difficult but also impacting lifespan. With longevity as his goal, Jia Ren naturally wouldn't be short-sighted. If he couldn't verify the quality of the elixirs, he would rather not buy them at all. Jia Ren's gaze fell on a row of shops in the West City district. Compared to the market area, this place was cleaner and tidier. The cultivators coming and going were stronger, and their robes were of finer quality. His eyes landed on one, the Pill Cauldron Pavilion. It was the elixir shop his predecessor often frequented, specializing in elixirs and holding a very good reputation. It was said that the elixirs the Pill Cauldron Pavilion offered came from the Five Elements sect, ensuring their quality. Fellow Taoist, may I know which elixir you wish to purchase? The one who greeted him was a young female cultivator, about 20 years old, dressed in a long robe of gauzy silk, her figure graceful. What frustrated Jia Ren was the female cultivator's cultivation level. She was at the 4th layer of chi refining. Working in the Pill Cauldron Pavilion meant a steady income of spirit stones, far outstripping countless loose cultivators. Even so, reaching the mid-stage of chi cultivation at her age was no easy feat. If her talent was exceptional, she would have joined a sect long ago and would not have ended up as a maid in the Pill Cauldron Pavilion. An elixir that helps a cultivator at the 3rd level of chi refinement advance quickly? The female cultivator smiled sweetly and introduced. There are many elixirs suitable for the early stage of chi cultivation, but the minor yuan elixir has the best effect. Each minor yuan elixir costs 1 spirit stone. A vial containing 10 elixirs is priced at 9 spirit stones and 5 broken spirits. The spirit bud elixir is actually meant for cultivators in the mid-stage of chi cultivation. It excels because it is refined from the essence of spirit bud rice and several special spiritual medicines. The spiritual energy is gentle, and taking the spirit bud elixir can make breaking through the early stage of chi cultivation much faster. The price is significantly higher than that of the minor yuan elixir, each costing 2 spirit stones. A vial of 10 elixirs is priced at 19 spirit stones. Minor yuan elixir and spirit bud elixir? If it had been before, I would have only considered the minor yuan elixir. Poverty was to blame. I've never taken spirit bud elixir before. Its price isn't friendly to cultivators at the early stage of chi cultivation. My pockets have just become somewhat full, and tomorrow's income probably won't be too low. Being extremely rich while at the early stage of chi cultivation is like inviting trouble. The faster I can break through, the better, to avoid attracting petty thieves. 1 vial of spirit bud elixir. Since the spirit bud elixir was still useful for reaching the mid-stage of chi cultivation, Jia Ren wasn't worried about buying too much and wasting it. The female cultivator looked at Jia Ren with slight surprise. She had recommended it to many cultivators at the early stage of chi cultivation, but few had ever made a purchase. Even if they bought one out of politeness or pride, they would usually only get a single elixir. This was the first time she had seen a loose cultivator at the early stage of chi cultivation in the outer city district buy an entire vial of spirit bud elixir. 19 spirit stones. Money exchanged hands, and so did the goods. The female cultivator handed a white porcelain jade vial of elixir to Jia Ren but didn't hurry to let go. Her fingertip lightly scratched Jia Ren's palm, prompting a surprised look from him. What met his eyes were orbs as gentle as rippling autumn water. Jia Ren was good-looking. Although not as handsome or dashing as Panin, he still had an above-average appearance. Of course, the significant bonus was his considerable wealth. The female cultivator didn't mind getting to know him better. This female cultivator is coveting my body. No, that's not right. She must be after my spirit stones. Could she be in the business of seducing men for money? Jia Ren, who had not yet escaped poverty, naturally declined politely internally. He habitually checked the quality of a spirit bud elixir. As he opened the white porcelain jade vial, a refreshing fragrance wafted out. It was somewhat similar to the aroma of green bud rice but many times more intense. The quality was excellent, the mere scent of the medicine was invigorating. Ignoring the female cultivator's disappointed gaze, he secured the elixir and walked away without hesitation. His manner was much like that of a faithless lover who leaves immediately after the deed is done. Time to head home. Clutching the newly acquired spirit bud elixir, Jiren activated the wind control skill and hurried towards his residence. He encountered no pickpockets or ambushes on the way and arrived home safely. It's time to cultivate. Let's see how effective the spirit bud elixir is. After making sure the traps were well set and that his army of mosquito guards was on high alert, Jiren decisively entered seclusion to cultivate. He was going to attempt to break through to the fourth layer of chi refining. Chapter 9-9, Fourth Layer of Chi Refining. Jiren sat cross-legged, his 5 hearts facing upwards. He opened a pill bottle, took out a yellow-brown pill, and its pill energy permeated the air, filling the room with fragrance. Without hesitation, he decisively swallowed the spirit bud elixir. As the elixir entered his mouth, it stimulated saliva production, and the spirit bud elixir quickly melted into a spiritual liquid, sliding down his throat. Spiritual energy, dozens of times more concentrated than that derived from normal cultivation, dispersed within his body, swiftly sweeping through him. His body felt warm and cozy, as if he were soaking in a hot spring. Return to origin technique. He immediately began circulating the return to origin technique, initiating the great circulatory cycle. The elixir's spiritual power was, after all, external. If not absorbed promptly, a significant amount of spiritual energy might dissipate from his body. This would be the greatest waste of the elixir. Jiren clearly felt his spiritual power growing rapidly, at a rate at least dozens of times faster than normal cultivation. My cultivation progress is increasing so quickly. He was far more diligent than the body's original owner, dedicating more time to cultivation and spells. By persisting in his arduous training, he could increase his cultivation progress by 1 point every 3 days, a pace that was by no means slow. The spirit bud elixir could help cultivators in the mid-stage of chi cultivation improve their cultivation level. When taken at the 3rd level of chi refinement, the effects were immediately apparent. 1 pill, once refined, could increase cultivation progress by 6 points. The speed of cultivation was astonishing. No wonder cultivators favored using elixirs for their practice. Time flew by, and he entered a state of oblivion to everything but his cultivation. Once the elixir's spiritual power was fully refined, he swallowed another pill. Cultivation made him lose track of time, a full day and 2 nights passed unknowingly. I've reached perfection at the 3rd level of chi refinement. Time to break through. He swallowed the last spirit bud elixir and, using its spiritual power, launched his assault on the 4th layer of chi refinement. He didn't encounter the anticipated bottleneck, his cultivation level broke through smoothly, as naturally as water carving a channel. Finally, the 4th layer of chi refinement. The mid-stage of chi cultivation was a brand new realm, and Jiren experienced sensations entirely different from before. His 5 senses were enhanced to an incredible degree. The world appeared different, he could perceive the finest details, with even the smallest things clearly visible. His spiritual senses became exceptionally sharp, he could clearly hear the buzzing of a mosquito outside his stone house. Is this the feeling of the 4th layer of chi refinement? Quite nice. The spirit bud elixirs bought with spirit stones weren't wasted. With his breakthrough to the 4th layer of chi refinement, the spiritual power in his body doubled. This meant he could practice the wind control skill twice as often, allowing him to increase its proficiency level much faster. Next, I need to change my cultivation technique for the chi refinement realm. The return to origin technique isn't suitable for me anymore. If I can't find a replacement, I'll cultivate the eternal spring technique. Jiren was relieved that he cultivated the non-elemental return to origin technique, as this would make it much easier to switch to another cultivation technique. Oh, I almost forgot about the bait business. The joy of breaking through to the 4th layer of chi refinement vanished, replaced by worry. No wonder it is said that in cultivation, time holds no meaning, and 1,000 years can pass in the blink of an eye in the mortal world. Breaking through from the 3rd to the 4th layer of chi refinement didn't take an excessively long time, yet it still consumed nearly 2 full days. He hadn't set up his stall yesterday, which meant a day's loss of spirit stone earnings. Considering this was the peak season for the bait business with numerous buyers, missing 1 day meant losing 20 spirit stones. Jiren quickly reconciled himself to this loss. He realized that without this breakthrough in strength, an extra 20 spirit stones would have been more of a curse than a blessing, potentially leading him to ruin. But now, at the 4th layer of chi refinement and having entered the mid-stage of chi cultivation, he could protect a few dozen spirit stones. First, food. It is said that in the later stages of cultivation, one can subsist on spiritual energy alone, achieving a form of immortality. He was far from that level now and still needed to eat. A breakthrough today calls for a celebration. A bowl of pure spirit rice, with no ordinary rice mixed in. Jiren took out 2 caddies of spirit rice from his storage bag, skillfully rinsed it, and set it to cook. Soon, the rich fragrance of rice filled the room. The spirit rice was piled high in a bowl, each grain shimmering like a jade green gem, a beautiful sight. Time to eat. Feeling good today, his appetite was whetted, and he quickly finished a bowl of spirit rice. Is Brother Jia at home? Just then, a somewhat familiar voice came from outside. You've come at the perfect time. Have a bowl of spirit rice to warm your stomach. Julezi pushed the door open and walked in as if it were his own home. Is he about to trigger the trap? Jiren took a step forward, his body blocking the door to prevent Julezi from stepping on the mechanism connected to the gunpowder keg's fuse, which would send him sky high in an explosion. What's wrong, brother? Can't even spare a bowl of spirit rice? Julezi's expression darkened, his tone chilling noticeably. Remembering his purpose for coming, however, his expression softened again. We're brothers, after all. We should help each other. Jiren's face was grim. His attempt to block Julezi failed as the man forcibly squeezed past him. Once inside, Julezi sat down, picked up the bowl and chopsticks already filled with spirit rice, and began to eat heartily. This guy clearly smelled the spirit rice and came over to freeload. Julezi lived nearby, their relationship was ordinary, with infrequent interactions. Lately, perhaps short on spirit stones, he had been coming over to freeload quite often. With a thought, Jiren commanded the mosquitoes outside. They swarmed into the room, launching a blitz against Julezi. With a combat strength of less than 0.1, Julezi was utterly insignificant. He didn't even put down his chopsticks, nor was he driven away by the mosquitoes. Is your house a mosquito nest? A brown spirit chi protective barrier rose, completely enveloping him without any gaps. The mosquitoes couldn't find a place to bite and could only buzz around Julezi's ears, tormenting him with noise. Julezi paid them no heed. Then, as if remembering something, he looked at Jiren in confusion. Why is there no smoked fish today? Has Taoist Jia stopped fishing for spirit fish? Jiren's face turned as black as the bottom of a pot, his voice growing cold. Am I supposed to feed the spirit fish I catch to rats? Julezi's face showed displeasure. Is he making insinuations? Recently, leftover spirit fish placed in the water tank had been vanishing. Jiren knew this was Julezi's handiwork. It's just a few spirit fish and a couple of bowls of spirit rice. Why be so petty? Julezi said. Don't say I don't look out for you, brother. I just found a way to make spirit stones and came straight to you. It's much better than fishing for spirit fish in the lake of smoky waves. Julezi wore a mysterious expression, deliberately keeping Jiren in suspense, waiting for him to inquire. A chance to get rich, and you think of me? I'm afraid you're harboring ill intentions. We're neighbors who see each other frequently, how could I not know Julezi's character? He was skilled in all manner of vices: drinking, whoring, gambling, and smoking, and adept at theft and petty crimes, dabbling in every underhanded activity imaginable. Jiren earned spirit stones by selling bait. Even if Julezi genuinely had a way to make a fortune, he wasn't interested. How could Brother Zhu deceive you? It really is a big deal. Julezi insisted. However, I recently lost a bit at Heavenly River Square. I was hoping you could lend me a few spirit stones to tide me over. Rest assured, Brother Zhu guarantees to help you earn spirit stones. He devoured a caddy of my spirit rice and still has the gall to ask to borrow spirit stones. This talk of a fortune is surely a pretense. Borrowing spirit stones is his true motive. Brother Jia, you don't need to be polite with this kind of trash. Yang Shengwu, who lived next door, strode in. He held an unfamiliar beast leg in his left hand and a magic sword in his right, emanating a murderous aura. Get lost, now! He roared. If you bother Brother Jia again, Yang wouldn't mind making you a ghost under my sword. Julezi, who had been lounging lazily, looked as if he'd seen a ghost. Forgetting the spirit rice, he trembled and fled out the door. I remember you weren't like this before, you would have acted sooner. Yang Shengwu said, looking at Jiren. Have you stopped hunting magical beasts and started cultivating your temperament recently? Yang Shengwu was a burly man with a full beard. He had a close relationship with the original Jiren, and they often hunted together. To be precise, the original Jiren had always been the one Yang Shengwu looked out for. Over the past 3 years, the original Jiren had received considerable help from him. His survival while hunting magical beasts was largely due to Yang Shengwu's protection. Yang Shengwu sheathed his magic sword and placed the beast leg he carried in front of Jiren, a hearty smile on his face. My hunting luck has been good lately. I killed a white Hao pig. This leg is for you, for good fortune. The white Hao pig was a first-order monster. Its meat was in high demand, selling for 3 fragmented spirit stones per catty, far more sought after than green-scaled fish. The hind leg should weigh about 20 catties. Even after removing the bones, there would still be 15 or 16 catties of meat, which could sell for nearly 5 spirit stones. This was not a small sum, especially for a loose cultivator. Jia Ren had been fortunate to catch a jade carp that sold for 3 spirit stones and 4 fragmented spirit stones, but that was less lucrative than this white Hao pig's hind leg. Hunting magical beasts was dangerous work. Entering the great wilderness offered no guarantee of a successful hunt. One had to risk their life battling magical beasts. Who is the hunter, and who is the prey? It's not always clear. Congratulations on your bountiful hunt, Brother Yang. This beast leg is too valuable. Jiam is unworthy of accepting it. Jia Ren said, waving his hand in refusal. 5 spirit stones was a significant amount. Many low-level loose cultivators couldn't earn that much in several months. Yang Shengwu, at the 6th layer of Qi refinement, had a much higher cultivation level than Jia Ren. He was far from wealthy enough to casually give away 5 spirit stones. Yang owes his entry into the cultivation world to your esteemed father's guidance. If not for him, Yang would still be a mere martial artist, struggling daily for sustenance. Yang Shengwu said. Yang is no ingrate. If you don't hunt magical beasts, you'll have no income from spirit stones, and your days will become even more difficult. Yang's cultivation level has broken through, reaching the late stage Qi refining. This beast leg is a gift for that, and also to congratulate you on reaching the 4th layer of Qi refinement. Yang Shengwu had been in the Great Wilderness for half a month and had only just returned today. He was unaware that Jia Ren had been doing quite well recently by fishing and selling bait. This spirit beast meat was a gift he couldn't refuse, even if he wanted to. There's something else I need to tell you. Yang Shengwu continued. Yang will be moving to the inner city. I was wondering if you'd be willing to come along? Reaching the late stage Qi refining was a significant turning point. It brought about a dramatic change in one's identity and status, granting eligibility to reside in the inner city. One could even bring 2 or 3 family members or close associates. Yang Shengwu clearly intended to help Jia Ren by offering him this opportunity. Congratulations, Yang Du. Jia Ren said. As for the inner city, I think I'll pass. The rent there is frighteningly high. The inner city has its own elite circles. I'd inevitably be an outsider there. Most importantly, moving would disrupt my bait business. The outer city district is the environment that suits me best. Yang Shengwu looked disappointed but didn't press further. They chatted casually for a few more moments before Yun Niang from next door called him away. Are your spirit stones burning a hole in your pocket? Giving away spirit beast meat worth 5 spirit stones for free? Yun Niang's voice drifted over. Don't you know how expensive it is in the inner city? You've helped him out so much in the past, but that Jia Ren has no ambition, just fooling around with women all day. Don't tell me you're thinking of doing the same? Their stone house lacked any soundproofing formation, so Yun Niang's voice carried clearly. Don't speak such nonsense. Yang Shengwu's voice replied. Jia Ren has turned over a new leaf, and his cultivation level has also broken through to the 4th layer of Qi refinement. Besides, without Uncle Jia, how could Yang have ever stepped into the world of cultivation? And if not for that, how would Yang have met you, Yun Niang? Uncle Jia died saving Yang. How could Yang abandon Jia Ren now? What difference would there be between Yang and swine or dogs if I did? Jia Ren had no intention of eavesdropping and left his stone house. It's past noon. Time to set up the stall and earn some spirit stones. Activating the wind control skill, Jia Ren sped towards the West District Market, not forgetting to increase his proficiency level along the way. As usual, he paid the 1 fragmented spirit stone stall fee and entered the market. He arrived late, so all the good spots had already been claimed by other cultivators. He could only find a spot on the periphery to set up his stall. Low-grade white jade snake meat, 3 fragmented spirit stones per catty, limited quantity. Live green scaled fish for sale, 1 fragmented spirit stone per catty. Supreme grade bait for sale, 1 fragmented spirit stone for 15 pieces. Cultivators who want to catch spirit fish, don't miss out. Jia Ren frowned. Something seems off about the West District Market today. Supreme grade bait? Is someone trying to steal my business? Chapter 10-10 Monopoly Bait. Jia Ren followed the hawking cries and arrived before a stall. The owner was a thin man who, upon seeing a customer approach, quickly greeted him with enthusiasm. Fellow Taoist, are you looking to purchase bait? The bait at this stall is of supreme grade quality. Do you know the big shot who caught 80 spirit fish the day before yesterday? He used this very supreme grade bait. 80 spirit fish caught the day before yesterday? Jia Ren wondered. Could it be that cultivator surnamed Shen who bought 100 pieces of bait? Wait, who said he bought the bait from your stall? Isn't his false advertising? Most importantly, products of unknown quality could ruin the reputation of the bait tempting technique. Jia Ren was about to argue, but upon reflection, he realized that aside from making an enemy, it would be of no benefit. In the cultivation world, there were no copyrights or patents, and no relevant laws, so arguing was futile. It was better to win through product quality, competing openly and honorably. Jia Ren was full of confidence in his bait. Grandmaster-level craftsmanship in bait-making was unique. Not every Tom, Dick, or Harry could compete with his business. Leaving the bait stall, he continued forward and encountered several other roadside stalls selling bait. Without a doubt, the bait business now had many more competitors. Forget it. I'll keep setting up the stall and rely on the reputation I've built. Business won't be bad, he thought. Jia Ren found an unoccupied spot in a corner of the West District Market, unrolled a piece of animal hide, and set up his stall. The price remained the same as before. He didn't intend to enter a price war with inferior products. High-end products should maintain a high-end image. There's no need to devalue his own brand. The wooden plaque with the prices did have a slight alteration. An additional note was written in charcoal, the only verified genuine product. Beware of counterfeits. The stall's location wasn't ideal. Other bait sellers further ahead were diverting potential customers, and no business was coming his way. Jia Ren wasn't anxious. His proficiency level with the wind control skill was skyrocketing. If no customers came, he would meditate and cultivate. Taoist Jia, you've finally arrived. Master Lu has been searching desperately for you. A familiar voice sounded. Jia Ren looked up to see the reseller who had previously bought goods from him. The reseller was truly dedicated, being the first to seek him out. Taoist Jia, where were you yesterday? Why didn't I see you all day? Sensing Jia Ren's imperfectly controlled spiritual energy fluctuations, the reseller hurriedly cupped his hands in congratulation. So, Taoist Jia has broken through in his cultivation. Congratulations. Congratulations to you too. Taoist Jia, how much bait do you have on hand? I'll take it all. All of it? Jia Ren thought. Truly splendidly inhumane. The reseller must have earned a significant amount of spirit stones, otherwise, he wouldn't be so extravagant. With such a major customer, Jia Ren could also save the time spent setting up a stall. I have a total of over 9,700 pieces of bait. Are you sure you want them all? The reseller was momentarily stunned, not expecting Jia Ren to have so much bait. Could it be that he spent all of yesterday making bait? All of it. Since the words were spoken, there was no taking them back. Stockpiling a batch of bait would also prevent a situation where he had no goods if Jia Ren disappeared again. He had just made a good profit from selling bait, so producing the spirit stones wasn't difficult. Let's count it as 9,000 pieces of bait, for a total of 90 spirit stones. Finally, I have spirit stones to exchange for cultivation techniques and purchase defense artifacts. It's like going from a musket to a cannon. Jia Ren mused. He could also repurchase the spirit bud elixirs he had just finished and continue cultivating by consuming elixirs. The insect control scripture would be put aside for now, as he was still short on spirit stones. Even with the complete version of the insect control scripture, his combat strength wouldn't increase rapidly in a short time. For the time being, the incomplete version was sufficient. It was not too late to buy the complete one the next time he saved up 100 spirit stones. 90 spirit stones. Here's the bait. They exchanged spirit stones for goods. After confirming there were no issues, smiles appeared on both their faces. Fellow Taoist, in the future, you needn't set up a stall in the market. How about you supply exclusively to me? The reseller proposed. I'll take however much bait you have, and I hope you can offer a more favorable price. The reseller was no fool. He knew that monopolizing the bait business would be most profitable. By monopolizing the bait business, he could set his own prices. Jia Ren hadn't gone to Lake of Smoky Waves to sell bait, which proved he was unwilling to take risks. If Jia Ren wouldn't earn those profits, he would. That's a good proposal. Jia Ren agreed. The West District Market was crowded, and too many eyes were around. Acquiring a large sum of spirit stones would inevitably attract envy. Supplying exclusively to the reseller meant dealing with only one person, which greatly increased safety. Alright. We'll use sound transmission talismans to communicate. The two exchanged sound transmission talismans and agreed to trade again in 2 days. As he was about to leave, Jia Ren asked casually. Fellow Taoist, why didn't you restock from other stalls? Taoist Jia, your bait is incomparable. From now on, I'll only recognize your bait. The reseller's face fell. He had clearly suffered a significant loss due to inferior bait. During Jia Ren's absence, His bait business hadn't stopped. He had sourced some goods from several dubious stalls, which ended up ruining his reputation. No loose cultivators were willing to buy bait from him afterward. This was also why, upon seeing Jiren, he was eager to purchase a large amount of bait and establish a long-term partnership. The shortest time at the stall, the most spirit stones earned, Jiren mused. If this continues, how could I not get rich? I wonder how much longer Lake of Smoky Waves can last. The spirit fish were limited, and more loose cultivators were heading to Lake of Smoky Waves. Combined with the top-quality bait Jiren made, the day would eventually come when all the spirit fish were caught. We'll cross that bridge when we came to it. While the fishing business is still active, I need to earn as many spirit stones as possible, Jiren thought. Jiren packed up his stall early. Having sold all his bait, he needed to restock materials to make more. He first went to Taoist Yang Bingzi's stall, but the man hadn't arrived. He would have to find another source for earth dragon worms and spirit rice. Just after purchasing an ordinary-looking yellow essence mushroom from a roadside stall, Jiren's senses tingled, as if he had a thorn in his back. He felt as though he was being watched. Have I been targeted? Did my 90 spirit stones get exposed? If not for his breakthrough to the 4th layer of chi refinement, which had sharpened his senses, he probably wouldn't have noticed. Jiren pretended to pick up an ancient mirror from the stall, using its reflective surface to stealthily observe the source of the potential danger. It was an ordinary-looking, dark-faced cultivator, unremarkable in appearance and unlikely to draw attention. Were my 90 spirit stones exposed? Jiren pondered. But the crucial transaction was conducted via voice transmission, and the location was remote. No one should have discovered it. The reseller would still source goods from him, and they shared common interests. They wouldn't turn on each other in the short term. Wait, he's observing what materials I'm buying, Jiren realized. Materials? Jiren had a moment of clarity, vaguely understanding what was going on, and couldn't help but find the situation absurdly ironic. So they were plotting to steal the bait tempting technique formula. In the West City District Market, there were many stalls selling bait, but the quality was often poor, making sales difficult. Once a loose cultivator was cheated, they wouldn't be fooled a second time. Therefore, those wanting to continue in the bait business were naturally quite interested in the bait tempting technique formula. Bait making, after all, is not alchemy. The difficulty of imitation is lower. Even if they couldn't reach Grandmaster level, it was still possible to produce an imitation bait that had 2 or 3/10 of the original's effectiveness. Trying to steal my craft and seize my business? Wishful thinking. Jiren pretended not to have noticed and went to buy 5 jugs of fruit wine. I should purchase a defense artifact. Jiren thought. Having so many spirit stones on hand without spending them on magical artifacts to convert into strength left him feeling uneasy, especially now that he was being watched. The stronger his self-defense capabilities, the better. Compared to elixirs, there were far fewer issues with magical artifacts. However, one could inevitably encounter magical artifacts of questionable quality, sometimes containing backdoors. The only advantage of stall-bought ones was that, compared to the magical artifacts sold in shops, they were cheaper by 1/3 to 1/4. Can this defense artifact be tested? Jiren's gaze swept over a dull yellow shield at a stall with interest. This is the Yellow Stone Shield, a low-quality magical artifact. Its defense is excellent among its kind. If fully activated, cultivators of the same level cannot break through its defense. The stall owner said, his words flowing non-stop as he saw a potential sale, eager to lavish praise on the Yellow Stone Shield. Upon infusing spiritual power, the palm-sized, dull yellow shield rapidly expanded, becoming a giant shield the size of a door panel, blocking his front. However, its control felt sluggish, making it difficult to pivot deftly, and its defensive performance was unknown. The magic artifact didn't meet his expectations. Jiren put the magic artifact down. Finding nothing else to his liking at that stall, he moved on to others. Fellow Taoist, how about this flame spirit shield? Another stall owner offered. Its defensive ability is not bad, and it even triggers a flame backlash when attacked. Flashy but impractical, its defensive capability is inadequate, Jiren assessed. Defense artifacts should prioritize pure defensive power. The retaliatory flame waves might pale in comparison to even a low-quality offensive magic artifact, making it truly superfluous. Besides, Jiren intended to follow the path of insect control in the future. Using the flame spirit shield would likely mean annihilating his own insects before even harming an enemy. After another round of searching, he finally found a defense artifact he liked, but after multiple tests, he discovered it was a defective product. I still need to go to a proper shop, he concluded. Jiren discreetly glanced around and found that the pursuer was still following him, relentless. Wind control skill. With his wind control skill already at the master level, Jiren sped away at an astonishing pace. The pursuer, realizing he had been discovered, decisively activated his own wind control skill to give chase. One fled while the other pursued. The dark-faced man could only watch helplessly as Jiren's figure disappeared into the distance, powerless to catch up. Is this guy part rabbit? He can really run. The black-faced man thought, exasperated. We both use the wind control skill, how can the difference be so vast? Chapter 11-11 Evil Curse. Haha, my focus on the wind control skill has not been in vain. The wind control skill is almost at the master level, by the time, I will be even faster. Jiren easily shook off his pursuer, relishing the overwhelming advantage in speed. The hard work of day and night cultivation was not wasted. He wasn't in a hurry to return home. After losing his tail, he headed to the southern district market. As a lowly loose cultivator, he was somewhat known among the bait-selling loose cultivators in the west district, but he was nobody in the southern district market. I hope I can buy the 4 arts of cultivation, the bait business won't last forever. I need to prepare in advance. In the past, he didn't dare to even think about it because he didn't have enough spirit stones. 90 spirit stones weren't much, but it was just enough to afford an entry-level first-order cultivation art. Filled with longing for the 4 arts of cultivation, Jiren began his search at stalls and shops. Is it bad luck, or some other reason, that I can't find a single seller? It's been a long time since I've seen someone selling pills, magic artifacts, talismans, worries. If the inheritance quality is decent, small families and sects will buy them. If the inheritance quality is poor, loose cultivators will buy them. When it comes to buying an inheritance for the 4 arts of cultivation, the most important thing is luck. The old cultivator running a stall was quite amiable and explained the reasons to Jiren in detail. The 4 arts of cultivation are like the bread and butter for cultivators, their inheritances are rarely leaked, and unless absolutely necessary, no one would be willing to sell them. Competitors are adversaries. Those who master the 4 arts of cultivation wish nothing more than to hinder their fellow cultivators. Who would want to create competitors for no good reason? Jiren was visibly disappointed. With no hope of obtaining the 4 arts of cultivation for the time being, he could only consider ensuring his own safety. He wandered the southern district market in search of suitable defense magic artifacts. Please be kind, sell this poor Taoist an evil warding talisman for 3 spirit stones. I only have 3 spirit stones on me. A plea came from afar, drawing Jiren's attention. Following the sound, he saw many loose cultivators gathered around a talisman stall, creating a spectacle. What happened? There shouldn't be any danger in the market. Driven by curiosity, Jiren moved closer. An old cultivator, disheveled and dirty, was kneeling before the talisman stall owner, repeatedly kowtowing and pleading for an evil warding talisman to be sold to him cheaply. The stall owner was unmoved, his gaze cold. Evil warding talismans cost 10 spirit stones. You expect to buy one for 3? Are you dreaming? Get lost. Stay away from me. Don't let your noxious aura infect me. Seeing the old cultivator attempting to approach again, the stall owner instinctively moved away, his body lighting up with a red glow as he activated some unknown talisman. Evil warding talisman? It's only used when evil energy enters the body or when encountering bizarre demons. It's useless in combat. This world has not only demons but also bizarre demons. The methods of bizarre demons are strange, ordinary spells and techniques cannot harm them in the slightest. Once encountered, few ordinary cultivators survive. Even a mere brush with them can result in evil energy entering the body, and a truly dire fate befalls those affected. Did the old cultivator encounter a bizarre demon or some evil entity? Has evil energy entered his body, forcing him to buy an evil warding talisman? Where are these bizarre demons? Knowing their location would allow one to avoid them in advance. Who can lend this poor Taoist some spirit stones to buy an evil warding talisman? Seeing that pleading with the talisman stall owner was futile, the old cultivator cast his hopeful gaze upon the onlooking loose cultivators. A person can be brought to their knees by the lack of a single penny. He wouldn't be begging so humbly if he weren't out of options. The old cultivator's eyes were bloodshot, and an indescribable aura coiled around his face. Just looking at him for a moment made one's hair stand on end. The onlookers quickly stepped aside, not daring to come close. Nobody reached out to help. Just give someone 7 spirit stones for free? What kind of great philanthropist would do that? Loose cultivators struggle to make a living at the bottom. Spirit stones are hard to earn. Even if they had extra, they wouldn't throw them away on a lost cause. What the old cultivators saw were looks of fear and avoidance, as if they were treating him like a jinx, staying as far away as possible. With no way to survive, his hope shattered, and the old cultivator let out a sorrowful laugh. Ha ha, a bunch of heartless people. I curse you all to meet unfortunate ends. His voice, filled with resentment, echoed in the ears of all the cultivators. The loose cultivators felt as if they had came to watch a show but ended up smeared with filth themselves, and they quickly distanced themselves. What bad luck! One muttered. The stall owners in the market all packed up their wares, leaving only the old cultivator slumped on the ground, his gaze filled with bitterness and despair. Jiren followed the crowd away, feeling a vague discomfort in his heart. It was not out of pity for the man, nor was he considering giving away spirit stones for free. Rather, the old cultivator's bitter gaze continued to haunt him, impossible to dispel. I haven't been cursed, have I? Please don't let me be afflicted by evil. It's better to be safe than sorry. Stability above all, I should buy an evil warding talisman, just in case. Jiren found a talisman stall and, with a pang of regret, spent 10 spirit stones to purchase an evil warding talisman. He carefully placed the evil warding talisman over his heart. Whether it was psychological or genuinely effective, the gloom that had hung over his heart dispersed like smoke. I should acquire a defense magic artifact. Safety first, cultivation second. The spirit stones I have should first be used to increase my chances of survival. As Jiren's gaze swept over the various magic artifact stalls, there were plenty of low-quality defense magic artifacts, but the none that met his desires. Before he knew it, he had wandered into the shop area of the Southern District Market. A little shop? A shop situated in a quiet corner caught Jiren's attention. It mainly dealt in magic artifacts, displaying various fine magic artifacts on its shelves. Fellow Taoist, are you looking to customize a magic artifact, or purchase a premium one? Unlike the street stalls that sold ready-made magic artifacts or booty from ambushes, this shop offered a much wider range of services. They could even custom-make magic artifacts tailored to a client's needs. Let's look at the ready-made magic artifacts first. Jiren wasn't a newcomer to the cultivation world, he knew that custom-made meant expensive. Even for a low-quality magical artifact, the custom-making price was more than 50% higher than that of a regular ready-made one. With the spirit stones needed to order a custom low-quality magical artifact, it was better to save up a bit more and grit his teeth to buy a medium-grade magic tool. May I ask what type of magic artifact you are looking for, friend? The shopkeeper led the way and began to introduce his wares. Swords, knives, jade beads, compasses, gourds, mirrors. They had a complete range of types, all conceivable items were available. The shop's main business was low-quality magical artifacts and medium-grade magic tools, with both quality and prices significantly higher than those found at roadside stalls. The cheapest medium-grade magic tool started at over 60 spirit stones, most of them being offensive magic tools. The prices for medium-grade defense magic tools were exorbitant. A cursory glance revealed that each could cost upward of 100 spirit stones. Defensive magic artifacts. Low-quality magical artifacts. Seeing the shopkeeper leading him to look at medium-grade magic tools, Jiren helplessly added this clarification. Silken armor, made from black silkworm thread with a special secret technique, effectively defends against spell attacks, but its defense against piercing-type magic artifacts is a lackluster. Breeze robe, naturally carries a breeze and dust-repelling effect, keeping it spotless. It's warm in winter and cool in summer, defends against magical attacks excluding fire, and slightly enhances the speed of the wind control skill. Flying horn shield, a magic artifact crafted from the skulls of 3 flying lizards, excellent in defense, flexible in control. The quality of the magic artifacts in the shop far exceeded those on the roadside stalls. There were many types to choose from, including under armor, robes, and shields. The only downside was that the overall price was higher than at the roadside stalls. The effectiveness of a defense magic artifact could be a matter of life and death. One couldn't skimp on magic artifacts, the higher the quality, the better. Jiren favored the breeze robe the most. The breeze and dust repelling effect made it impeccable, not to mention its ability to increase the speed of his wind control skill. Specializing in the wind control skill, the breeze robe is perfect for me. I'll take the breeze robe. That will be 32 spirit stones. Jiren only haggled for 2 spirit stones. Having just earned a sum, he paid the spirit stones readily. He couldn't wait to change into the breeze robe. He felt its silky texture, so different from ordinary robes, and it always maintained a constant temperature, dispelling all stifling heat. Clothes make the man, just as a saddle makes the horse. Wearing the breeze robe, Jiren looked handsome and refined, exuding an extraordinary demeanor. He now had much more the temperament of a true cultivator, unlike the look of a struggling loose cultivator. The breeze robe is nice, and I look sharp in it, but its defensive performance is average, far inferior to proper defense magic artifacts. One defense magic artifact isn't enough, I could add another specialized in defense at most. Flying horn shield? It offers good agility but is slightly lacking in defense. Against loose cultivators weaker than myself, it would be fine. But against stronger opponents, its defensive capability wouldn't be very reliable. He glanced sideways at the display case of medium-grade defense magic tools and then retracted his gaze with a resigned air. He wanted to buy a medium-grade defense magic tool, but he lacked the funds. The shopkeeper, who had been watching Jiren, noticed this. "Friend, our shop also has a repaired medium-grade magic tool. Would you be interested?" Chapter 12-12 Green Spirit Shield and Turtle Spirit Technique. A repaired medium-grade magic tool? Isn't that just a defective magic artifact? Though Jiren was poor, he was not so desperate as to buy defective magic artifacts. What if there was an accident while using a low-quality magic artifact because it was cheaper? The enemy will not give you a half-time break to switch magic artifacts. You only have one life, so you must be careful. It's not a defective magic artifact, but there's a problem with the repairs. Each use damages the green spirit shield structure, and after about a dozen uses, it will break down. A dozen uses and it breaks down? Isn't that a consumable magic artifact? Using a consumable magic artifact is just like burning spirit stones with each use. For a lower-class loose cultivator, a medium-grade magic tool is like an heirloom that could be sold in a pinch for spirit stones. It's named the Green Spirit Shield, a middle-grade defense magical implement. When fully activated, even a cultivator at the 6th layer of chi refinement wielding a medium-grade magic tool could not break through it quickly. The Green Spirit Shield offers comprehensive and flawless defense against magic artifact attacks, undoubtedly a supreme-grade item among middle-grade defense magical implements. The price is only 30 spirit stones. Encountering a loose cultivator interested in the Green Spirit Shield was rare, and he did not want to miss out. The shop owner took out a palm-sized green shield that seemed to have a spiritual nature as it expanded upon activation, gathering a thick green spiritual light. The shield hovered beside the owner like an impregnable fortress. "Fellow Taoist, you can try it out." If it really achieved the effects as described by the shop owner and proved reliable, Jiren would not mind spending spirit stones to purchase it. A middle-grade defense magical implement is always better than a low-grade defense magic artifact, and the difference in quality could decide whether you live or die. Given his level of caution, it's possible that he might never use a consumable magic artifact 10 times before he died. Jiren activated the Black Fang sword to attack, and returned to origin sword chi burst forth. The sword chi fell upon the dense green spiritual light without causing a single ripple, unable to shake it in the slightest. The defense was indeed strong and incomparable to low-grade defense magic artifacts. With the Green Spirit Shield, he would have a chance to protect himself against cultivators stronger than him. 30 spirit stones is too expensive for the Green Spirit Shield with its limited number of uses. No more than 10 spirit stones. "Fellow Taoist, you're cutting the price too steeply. I will give you a deal at 25 spirit stones." The two haggled incessantly and finally settled for 15 spirit stones. The shop owner had no other choice. The Green Spirit Shield had collected dust in his shop for too long. Low-level loose cultivators were unwilling to spend spirit stones on it. Those in slightly better circumstances would buy a genuine middle-grade defense magical implement, making suitable buyers hard to find. Selling it and earning some spirit stones was better than letting it continue to gather dust. Having purchased 2 defense magic artifacts, Jiren left satisfied. He spent 10 spirit stones on the evil warding talisman, 30 on the breeze robe, and 15 on the Green Spirit Shield. In the blink of an eye, he had spent 55 spirit stones, significantly depleting his stash to just 35 spirit stones. 35 spirit stones. I wonder if I can buy a satisfactory cultivation technique? Jiren did not have high hopes. The price range for cultivation techniques varied greatly. The Eternal Spring Technique, Return to Origin Technique, and other basic cultivation techniques were too widely circulated to fetch a high price. More obscure and superior cultivation techniques were another matter entirely. A superior chi refinement cultivation technique could cost far more than 30 spirit stones, potentially hundreds. Top-notch chi refinement cultivation techniques were the heritage of sects and clans, not lightly sold to outsiders. Hopefully, luck is on my side, and I can find a suitable cultivation technique. If not, I will just have to change to cultivating the Eternal Spring Technique. With an anxious heart, he walked into Tongfa shop, which sold both cultivation techniques and spells. Tongfa shop had a wide range of cultivation techniques and spells for sale, and Jiren had visited once before. Although he had never bought anything, the diversity of cultivation techniques had made a deep impression on him. Dressed in a brand new robe and carrying himself with an impressive bearing, Jiren was no ordinary cultivator. As soon as he entered Tongfa shop, he was greeted warmly by a maid. "Fellow Taoist, what type of cultivation technique would you like?" "Eternal Spring Technique." The maid gave him a strange look but still produced the Eternal Spring Technique. 5 spirit stones. The shop's prices were indeed steep. Elsewhere the cultivation technique was sold for 3 spirit stones, but the shop wanted 5. As usual, asking for the price of the Eternal Spring technique was just to get a sense of the pricing for cultivation techniques at the shop. The prices indeed were not suitable for loose cultivators. Do you have any lifespan extending cultivation techniques? Since he was there, he could not just leave dejectedly. As long as the cultivation technique was good enough, he would not mind paying a premium. Lifespan extending cultivation technique? The maid looked skeptical. Why was this guy always asking about weird cultivation techniques? An elderly cultivator asking to change his cultivation technique would be understandable, but it always seemed odd for someone in the prime of their life. Peers of his age should be interested in combat-enhancing cultivation techniques, which are the most favored among loose cultivators. The Great Wilderness Market was not a peaceful place. Duels were commonplace, and few loose cultivators lived out their natural lifespan. Without the power to protect oneself, how could one possibly hope to live a long life? Fellow Taoist has come to the right place. The shop has a complete collection of cultivation techniques, and we just happen to have a lifespan extending cultivation technique. The Turtle Spirit technique, created by a Foundation Establishment cultivator. Not only does the Turtle Spirit technique have a strong life-extending effect, but when combined with Turtle Spirit ointment, it can even make up for lost years of life. The version containing the cultivation experiences and insights of a Foundation Establishment cultivator is priced at only 100 spirit stones. Make up for lost years of life? How does the Turtle Spirit technique compare with the Eternal Spring technique in terms of prolonging life? Perhaps guessing Jia-ren's thoughts, the maid hastily added. The life-extending effect of the Eternal Spring technique is not strong. At most, it adds 5 to 10 years. The Turtle Spirit technique was specifically created to extend life, and adding more than 20 years is not a problem. A cultivation technique that extends life by 20 years and can make up for lost years is too tempting. It's just that the price is too expensive. I always feel like there's a catch. Jia-ren looked down at his breeze robe. As if he had thought of something, he found an excuse to leave the shop. It's said that many shops size up their customers. Time to test another. He found a secluded spot, intending to discard the ordinary Taoist robe he had been planning to throw away, and changed out of his breeze robe, disguising himself simply. Having lingered among the lowest ranks of loose cultivators for years, how could he not have 1 or 2 tricks for changing his appearance? The disguise was not a spell, but a minor adjustment of facial features and additional decorations. It would be difficult to fool someone familiar, but not so hard to deceive a stranger. Once again looking like a destitute, bottom-tier loose cultivator, the treatment he received from the newly assigned maid was cold, a stark contrast to the previous enthusiasm. The Eternal Spring technique, 5 spirit stones. The Turtle Spirit technique comes in a regular and a refined edition. The refined edition contains the cultivation experiences and insights of high-order cultivators to avoid taking detours in cultivation, selling for 100 spirit stones. The regular edition, 20 spirit stones. A regular edition? For only 20 spirit stones? The difference between the refined and regular editions is not significant. The only difference lies in whether or not it includes the cultivation experiences of a Foundation Establishment cultivator. The regular edition you get for 20 spirit stones is like the common version you would find at a street stall. Earlier, only the refined edition was mentioned, not the regular one. Such a trap. Luckily, he was clever enough. Jia-ren visited many stalls. Apart from the Eternal Spring technique, there were no other lifespan extending cultivation techniques available, with the Turtle Spirit technique being an exception. He could afford the 20 spirit stones. To avoid falling into a trap, he finally learned the differences amidst the maid's impatience. The Turtle Spirit technique was specifically created by a Foundation Establishment cultivator on the brink of his life's end, wanting to make up for the years lost in his youth. It indeed had a life-extending effect, increasing the longevity of cultivators at the same cultivation level. The Turtle Spirit technique was not perfect, though, as its cultivation speed was slightly slow. If one wants to speed up cultivation, one must pair it with the specially made Turtle Spirit ointment. For older cultivators who do not mind the slower cultivation, as long as it ensures the life-extending effect, practicing the cultivation technique simultaneously is a viable option. Unfortunately, practicing the Turtle Spirit technique concurrently offers no life-extending benefits. It must be the primary cultivation technique practiced. The Turtle Spirit technique is not well suited for combat, it specializes in defense. The main cultivation technique of the turtle? How can one compete for cultivation resources with fellow cultivators? Another important point is that after reaching Foundation Establishment, changing to primarily practice the Turtle Spirit technique is useless. It has to be from the start of the Chi refinement realm. The lower one's cultivation level, the better the life-extending effects of practicing the turtle spirit technique, and vice versa. With so many restrictions, aside from a specific group of people, no one else is interested. I am buying the turtle spirit technique. Making up for lost years of life is the greatest value of the turtle spirit technique. Thinking of the 30 years he had lost, Jiren felt a pang of pain in his heart. After changing his cultivation technique to the turtle spirit technique, his maximum lifespan increased by 50 years, rising more than just one level. He possessed a proficiency panel, making his progress in practicing cultivation techniques far outstrip those of ordinary cultivators, most certainly far above average. The shortcomings can be compensated for. Chapter 13 to 13 Deadly Peril. Besides Turtle Spirit Ointment, Turtle Spirit Technique consists of 2 other special secret techniques. Turtle Spirit Ointment is made using Spirit Turtle as the main ingredient. The ointment on its own is not very effective when consumed. Only when paired with the Turtle Spirit Technique does it help with cultivation, replenishing depleted lifespan and manifesting its miraculous outcomes. The Turtle Spirit Technique comes with 2 decent secret techniques, Turtle Breath Technique and Turtle Prime Spirit Armor. The Turtle Breath Technique can be cultivated from the early stage of chi refinement. It's a fine technique for concealing one's presence. Paired with the special spiritual power of the Turtle Spirit Technique, its ability to conceal is very strong, even someone a small realm higher might find it hard to detect. Turtle Prime Spirit Armor is a powerful defensive secret technique, learnable in the mid-stage of chi refinement. Its defensive capabilities far surpass those of the Spirit Chi Protective Barrier. The strength of the Turtle Prime Spirit Armor also intensifies as the cultivator's power in the Turtle Spirit Technique increases. Turtle Breath Technique conceals one's breath, making detection difficult, while Turtle Prime Spirit Armor enhances defensive ability. These 2 secret techniques are the core of the Turtle Spirit Technique. It is not adept at fighting but specializes in self-preservation. The creator of the Turtle Spirit Technique, Turtle Spirit Sage, was truly an enigmatic fellow. Appear amongst us. Having acquired a suitable cultivation technique, Jiren had no intention of lingering in the market and hurried home. He couldn't wait to switch to cultivating the Turtle Spirit Technique to replenish the lifespan he had lost. Using the wind control skill to travel, he moved extremely fast. He didn't encounter any unexpected incidents and managed to return to his stone dwelling smoothly. There's a problem. There's someone in the stone dwelling. Jiren was instantly on alert. His eyes carefully scrutinized his stone dwelling, noticing changes that were entirely different from before. There appeared to be remnants of an explosion outside, and a faint smell of gunpowder lingered in the air. The stone door had been replaced, the sword marks left by Elder Ma when he failed to kill for the Ascension Pill were gone. The ground had been tampered with, traces deliberately erased. However, the technique was too crude, the skill lacking, as new soil and old soil could still be distinguished. All this proved that someone had broken into the stone dwelling and triggered the explosion trap. They deliberately erased all traces. They didn't want to alert me, they intend to make a move against me. The mosquitoes responsible for surveillance sent a warning, danger. There's someone inside the stone dwelling. Who could it be? Julesi? Or the cultivator who had been trailing me? Jiren had cut off contact with the original host's fairweather friends. The original host, a specialist in the sunlocking technique, was devoted to the dual cultivation of the Great Tao and had few enemies. Apart from these individuals, it could also be a passing bizarre cultivator. Jiren looked next door. Yang Shengwu had already moved away, leaving the area around his stone dwelling much emptier. Even if he wanted to seek help, he was powerless to do so. What to do? The strength of the hidden cultivator was unknown, and he couldn't risk exposing himself. Inside the stone dwelling, a black-faced man with singed hair and scorch marks on his body was hiding in the shadows. He held a magic sword in his right hand, ready to strike. Closer, just a little closer. If Jiren had seen the man's face, he would have recognized him as the cultivator from the West District Market who had trailed him. Simingkong originally wanted to steal the recipe, imitate the bait tempting technique, and grab a share of the bait market. After his tracking was discovered, he had no choice but to look for another way. He intended to find the formula at Jiren's home and steal whatever was useful. There must be leftover materials from making bait. If I can base the formula on these substances, I can deduce the bait formula. He forced his way into Jiren's stone dwelling, not expecting to trigger the explosive trap, which left him severely injured. Not only did his theft fail, but he also got hurt, suffering a huge loss. Simingkong almost burst with rage. Kill Jiren. It would both avenge my injuries from the explosion and secure the bait tempting technique formula, allowing me to monopolize the bait business. Moreover, his storage bag must be filled with spirit stones earned from selling the bait. The intent to kill arose, impossible to restrain. Ximing Kong carefully dealt with the traces, used the converging breath technique to conceal his aura and murderous intent, and quietly waited for Jia Ren to return home. He was like a venomous snake hidden in the darkness, silently baring its fangs. The moment Jia Ren enters the door will be his day of death. Time passed, but the prey did not come close, giving him no chance to strike. It's time to move. Jia Ren used the wind control skill and left without any attachment. The cultivation world is indeed perilous. If I hadn't made arrangements in advance and known someone was in the stone house, I might have died the moment I walked in. Even now, Jia Ren still felt a chill on his back and couldn't stop sweating coldly. The cultivation world is full of danger. A slight misstep could mean not seeing the sun the next day. If home isn't safe, I'd rather spend a spirit stone to move to a new home than fight someone to the death. Just leave like this? I'm not reconciled. I need to know where the enemy lives to avoid accidentally moving right into their sights. If by chance I'm tailed another day, a similar incident could happen again. I could avoid it today, but I might not be so lucky next time. Since I don't have the strength to eliminate this hidden danger, I'll do my best to avoid trouble. Jia Ren did not go too far. He let a mosquito land on the target's robe, using it as a coordinate to pinpoint the target's location. He found a spot from which he could observe the stone house and carefully concealed himself. Time flew by, and as dusk approached, a black-faced man with burn marks on his face walked out of the stone house with a grim expression. So cautious. Ximing Kong fumed internally. After staking out for so long, I finally saw him. But in the end, he didn't even enter the door, he just ran off. With Jia Ren's level of caution, it won't be easy to catch him. I'll have to remember this grudge for now and repay it another day. Ximing Kong quickly left the stone house and headed south. Jia Ren didn't rush to pursue, he patiently waited. Only when the mosquito's senses became blurry did he use the wind control skill to follow in the direction the other party had left. He deliberately controlled his speed, always staying within the mosquito's maximum sensing range. After a moment, once the sensed target no longer moved, Jia Ren cautiously approached with bolstered courage. South City District? Good thing I followed. Jia Ren's forehead was covered in cold sweat. The West City District and South City District had the best business for selling spirit fish, so his subconscious choice for relocation had been the South City District. If I had relocated and become neighbors with that killer, the scenario was too horrifying to contemplate. He mentally noted the location of the stone house and drifted away. I'll go to the Northern District. He found the Northern District Housing Authority, paid 3 spirit stones for 3 months' rent, and moved into an old, dilapidated stone house. He cleaned it with 2 cleaning talismans, made some simple repairs to drafty and leaky spots, and thus settled down. After being busy for a while, the night had deepened, and Jia Ren felt extremely hungry. It's a good thing I've always made it a habit to carry spirit rice and spiritual beast meat with me. Not much was lost. My pots, bowls, and kitchen utensils are gone for now. It's late, I'll have to make do with a simple meal tonight. He lit the collected firewood in the stove, took out the hind leg of a white how pig given by Yang Shengwu, cut a pound of monster beast meat, skewered it on a wooden stick, and roasted it over the fire. In the time it takes for a cup of tea to brew, the monster beast meat was roasted to a golden brown. The meat was chewy and, lacking specialized seasoning, not particularly delicious. Although monster beast meat was not tasty, its nourishing effect on the body was far superior to spirit rice by many folds. It is said that among cultivators, the rare body cultivators often feed on monster beast meat. Jia Ren, spiritually exhausted, soon fell asleep. The next day, Jia Ren found pots, bowls, and kitchen utensils from the market and started cooking spirit rice. Taoist Jia, to think that when I moved to the Northern District, you'd follow the scent of food and become my neighbor. Chapter 14-14 Modified Cultivation Technique. Taoist Jia, could it be that you've found a new paramour? You haven't taken care of my business for quite some time. The female cultivator was beautiful, clad in light silk gauze, her exquisite curves faintly visible. She held a basin of water in her hands, her gaze upon him both surprised and delighted. Jia Ren recognized the female cultivator approaching from the direction of the back house as somewhat familiar, seemingly engaged in some special business. What kind of luck is this? Just moving randomly, and he encounters someone he knows? The female cultivator's smile was radiant. She set down the basin and stepped forward to embrace Jia Ren's arm, her waterfall-like hair draping over his shoulder. A thick perfume invaded his nostrils, the scent peculiar. Taoist Jia, I've missed you so much. Have you missed me? Her eyes brimmed with emotion, as if autumn waves were shimmering within them. Jia Ren couldn't help but frown and instinctively distance himself. Taoist Jia, don't you miss me? Her soft body clung to him as if boneless. With just a turn of the head, he could see her tender skin and the blush that rose on her cheeks. She appeared like a shy young girl of 16, her every thought tied to her lover. Business had been poor recently, and she couldn't let a generous patron slip away. Since when has Taoist Jia become so shy? This little lady is lonely and cold. Won't you show some compassion for me? Her gaze was sharp, immediately noticing that Jiren wore an inferior robe, indicating he was richer than before. I've just switched to cultivating the bewitching body technique. My voice is light, my body supple, and I have new tricks to show. Taoist Jia's unlocking technique is exquisite and unmatched. Why not let me try and see if my skills have improved? The female cultivator's mouth was close to Jiren's ear, her breath fragrant. Jiren felt as if a current had coursed through his body, his mind a whirlwind. Dual cultivation? The female cultivator reached a hand into his robe, up to no good. Jiren, with strong mental fortitude, suppressed the fantasies in his heart. He caught the female cultivator's wrist to prevent further mischief and simultaneously pulled his right arm free from her embrace. Taoist friend, please stop there. If there's nothing else, please leave. Without looking at the female cultivator's tearful eyes, his expression was cold. Humphrey, heartless man. The female cultivator turned and went back to the stone house, sulking alone when she saw that Jiren did not follow. Could my seductive arts no longer be effective? Stinking man, I will make you come crawling back to me. Jiren took a deep breath, his emotions taking a long time to calm down. I almost fell for it. Female cultivators who practice the arts of seduction are indeed enchantresses, hard to resist. No wonder the original owner was so obsessed with this path, unable to extricate himself. Jiren could sense that the female cultivator had used some kind of seductive art, but unfortunately, her cultivation wasn't profound enough. More importantly, his mental fortitude was extraordinary, otherwise, he might have already been in the land of tenderness, engaging in endless nightly conversations with the female cultivator. After breakfast, Jiren took out the turtle spirit technique and studied it carefully. Thankfully, there's no need to disperse my current cultivation. For other techniques like the eternal spring technique, it would be necessary to disperse one's cultivation before switching to the turtle spirit technique. The return to origin technique was one of the rare attribute-less cultivation techniques, allowing the transformation of spiritual power into any type of energy. For cultivators practicing other cultivation techniques, it would usually take anywhere from 3 months to half a year to return to the fourth layer of chi refining. Jiren simply had to cultivate the turtle spirit technique and slowly transform his spiritual power, avoiding the need for dispersal and recultivation. He concentrated on closed-door cultivation, without any distractions. In one day and one night, all the spiritual power inside his body transformed into tortoise spirit energy. It was easier than I imagined. Feeling the thick tortoise spirit energy flowing within him, Jiren was in high spirits. The proficiency panel interface showed the return to origin technique had disappeared, replaced by the turtle spirit technique. Name, Jiren, lifespan, 30 out of 75, realm, 4th layer of chi refining, 1 out of 400, cultivation technique, turtle spirit technique 4th layer, 1 out of 400, spell, wind control skill, mastery, 388 out of 400, fireball technique, proficient, 28 out of 200, spirit eye technique, proficient, 26 out of 200, spirit shield, beginner, 81 out of 100, sun locking technique, mastery, 196 out of 400, return to origin sword chi, proficient, 148 out of 200, gather water spell, beginner, 30 out of 100, tempting bait, fish, grandmaster, limitless, insect control technique, mortal, proficient, limitless, turtle breath technique, beginner, 1 out of 100, turtle prime spirit armor, beginner, 1 out of 100, skill breaking point, 1.375. After switching to the turtle spirit technique, the effect on lifespan increase was immediately apparent. The upper limit went from 65 to 75 years, an increase of 10 years. 10 years of lifespan was already comparable to a lifespan extension pill. A lifespan extension pill that increases lifespan by 10 years, if put up for auction, could sell for at least 1,000 spirit stones and is highly sought after but rarely available. Having just switched cultivation techniques, the lifespan increase was noticeable. But later on, it won't be so easy to add more years to one's life. Either one had to break through the cultivation level to gain lifespan growth, or one had to prepare the special turtle spirit ointment necessary for the turtle spirit technique to aid in cultivation and make up for the lifespan deficit. Both require time and, more importantly, spirit stones. The turtle spirit technique is a good cultivation technique, but unfortunately, without the turtle spirit ointment to assist in cultivation, the progress is much slower than with the return to origin technique. No wonder the turtle spirit technique is not very popular and has become a minority technique. The turtle spirit technique had many advantages, But its drawback was the slow pace of cultivation, which was quite fatal. Sacrificing cultivation speed in exchange for a longer lifespan. For elderly cultivators seeking to extend their lives, it naturally seemed like a good deal. But for those committed to the Great Tao, eager to reach the foundation establishment stage, it was a completely different story. On the path of cultivation, being one step slow means being slow at every step. Passing 60 without a breakthrough basically meant there was no chance to reach the foundation establishment stage. Those who focused on cultivating the turtle spirit technique spent even more time. Without plenty of spirit pills and magic elixirs, reaching chi refining completion at the age of 60 was quite difficult, let alone the foundation establishment stage. In comparison, cultivators practicing other cultivation techniques reached chi refining completion earlier. Once they reached the foundation establishment stage, their lifespan would greatly increase. The lifespan gained from improving cultivation level far surpassed what the turtle spirit technique could offer. Haha, after many days of accumulation, I finally have one skill breaking point. Tempting bait, fish, and insect control technique, mortal, have both reached their limits, with apostrophe plus appearing afterward. Which one should I use the only skill breaking point on? Tempting bait, fish? Or insect control technique, mortal? The current bait tempting technique is sufficient. Even if he created higher quality bait, it wouldn't sell for a high price, so there's no real cost benefit. The insect control technique, mortal, is too mediocre. Since the complete version could be obtained with just 100 spirit stones, there's no need to waste a skill breaking point on it. It's most appropriate to use the skill breaking point on wind control skill, but to master wind control skill to the grandmaster limit, who knows how long it would take. Break the insect control technique. In another 8 or 9 days, I can accumulate another skill breaking point. Having just survived a fatal crisis, mosquitoes played no small part. Jiren didn't mind investing more in the insect control technique. Focusing on the apostrophe plus sign next to the insect control technique, mortal, on the proficiency panel, the panel blurred. Once it stabilized, the insect control technique underwent significant changes. Insect control technique, spirit, mastery, 221 out of 400. Insights about the insect control technique rose in Jiren's mind, bringing forth new knowledge and perspectives. He distinctly felt the changes in the insect control technique. It was no longer the crude control of the past, now he could precisely control every mosquito. With a mere thought, the mosquitoes residing outside the stone house fluttered in unison. Both their control distance and sensory range had more than doubled. The most important aspect was that the insect control technique could control not just mortal insects, but also spirit insects. I need turtle spirit ointment, cultivation pills, the complete insect control scripture, and elixirs or spirit stones for rapidly increasing my proficiency level. The spirit stone deficit is quite large. Tomorrow I will purchase bait-making materials and spirit insect eggs. A trip to the Grand Wilderness Mountain is a must. Chapter 15-15 Corner Worm Disaster. The Grand Wilderness Mountain was extremely vast, and its spiritual energy was much denser than that of the outer city of the Great Wilderness Market. This mountain was home to tenant farmers who specifically cultivated spirit rice for the 5 elements sect. They planted thousands of acres of spirit fields to support the Great Wilderness Market's demand for spirit rice. The spirit farmers relied on cultivating spirit rice to earn spirit stones for their cultivation. Before going to Lake of Smoky Waves to catch spirit fish, Jiren had also considered farming spirit fields on Grand Wilderness Mountain. The income wasn't high, but it was stable. What brings you to Grand Wilderness Mountain? As soon as Jiren reached the base of the mountain, nearby patrolling guards spotted him and regarded him with suspicion. Could you be here to steal spirit rice? Have the loose cultivators gone mad lately? They're even stealing unripe spirit rice. The matter of spirit rice was serious. Guards patrolled day and night to prevent cultivators from stealing it. In past years, it was only necessary to be vigilant during the spirit rice's ripening season. This year, for some unknown reason, even unripe spirit rice was being stolen. It was simply madness born of poverty. I, Jiren, have came to Grand Wilderness Mountain to find a friend. Sign in. The guard commanded. Remember, you're not allowed to stay on Grand Wilderness Mountain for long. Jiren understood the situation and left his spiritual energy imprint on the mountain patrol order. Only then did the patrolling guard allow him to enter Grand Wilderness Mountain. Each cultivator has a unique spiritual energy signature, which is difficult to fake. Once a spiritual energy imprint was left on the mountain patrol order, anyone within its sensing range could be precisely located. If anyone overstayed, the mountain guards would also come to remove them. Jiren left the guards post and followed the pathways between the terraced fields, heading straight up the mountain. The blue-green rice stalks, already waist high, had begun to ear, dotted with spirit rice grains the size of sesame seeds. They swayed with the wind, emitting a faint aroma of grain and wood. Green bud rice? It will take a few more months to mature, and then the new rice will hit the market. What are you up to? A shout rang out. An old man wearing a straw hat, his exposed skin sun-reddened, walked out of the fields, eyeing Jiren with caution. Anyone who saw a stranger near the spirit fields, eyeing the immature green bud rice, would feel uneasy. This was especially true since recent incidents of unripe spirit rice theft gave extra reason for suspicion. I've come to Grand Wilderness Mountain looking for someone. Do you happen to know where Taoist Yang Bingzi lives? Jiren asked, as he didn't know Yang Bingzi's whereabouts and had to ask for directions. Oh, you're looking for Bingzi. Are you here to help with pest control? The old man asked. Just head up the road, his house is the one with the big jujube tree in front. Forget it, I'll take you there myself. There were about 100 households on Grand Wilderness Mountain, and everyone knew each other. Guessing Jiren might be there to help with pest control, the old man's attitude warmed considerably. After walking 2 li, they could see a jujube tree with small yellow flowers, and the air was filled with the delicate fragrance of jujube blossoms. Bingzi, someone's looking for you. The old man bellowed from afar but heard no stir within the house. No one? Look at my old muddled head, I almost forgot. With the recent pest infestation, that lad Bingzi should be in the fields dealing with pests. Come with me. Following the spirit fields, they wound their way around and finally located Yang Bingzi. Alright, that lad is in the spirit field. I have things to do, so I won't go over. The old man said. Thank you. Jiren replied. Without the old man's help, finding someone on Grand Wilderness Mountain would have been a troublesome task. Taoist Yang Bingzi, it's not easy to find you. Jiren stood outside the spirit field, sighing as he looked at Yang Bingzi. After searching the market numerous times without finding a trace of him, Jiren had no choice but to came to Grand Wilderness Mountain. Yang Bingzi stared intently at the spirit field, occasionally using the metal finger technique to kill the spirit insects destroying the crop. With every spirit insect he killed, he tossed its bug corpse into a storage bag. Ordinary spirit insects were mostly inedible and only fit to feed to a cultivator's spirit beasts, so there was no hope of selling them at a high price. Making money was a process of accumulating small amounts. Once enough spirit insect bug corpses were gathered, they could be sold for a few fragmented spirit stones. Taoist Jia? What brings you here? Yang Bingzi turned around, his face lighting up with surprise upon seeing Jiren. He dropped his pest control work and jogged over. Taoist Jia, you wanted to buy earth dragon worms, right? That's easy to handle. Purchasing spirit rice is a bit more troublesome. I've run out of my own spirit rice, only left with lower quality rice for personal consumption. Yang Bingzi appeared somewhat embarrassed. He rubbed his muddy hands, looking rather restrained. The two had only had business dealings and were not close. Yang Bingzi was quite surprised that Jiren had sought him out. We can set aside the spirit rice for now, I'm looking to buy some spirit insect eggs. Purchasing spirit rice was simple, as the rice shop was always open, and Jiren still had enough spirit rice in stock for the time being. Only the earth dragon worms and their spirit insect eggs required Yang Bingzi's assistance. Eggs? Yang Bingzi had a strange expression as he raised his hand and pointed towards the spirit field. There's no need for spirit stones. Yang Bingzi said. The earth is teeming with spirit insects and their eggs, I'll find some for you right now. Jiren wanted to follow Yang Bingzi into the spirit field but was stopped. The ground is all mud, don't dirty your robe, Taoist Jia. Yang Bingzi added. Looking for spirit insect eggs while getting rid of pests is just part of the job. Perhaps because he constantly farmed spirit fields, Yang Bingzi's circle of friends was on Grand Wilderness Mountain. He seemed somewhat humble when dealing with cultivators from the Great Wilderness Market. He was mostly eager to please Jiren, whom he viewed as a wealthy patron. It's all right. Jiren said. Discerning spirit insect eggs is important, not just any egg will do. Besides, the eggs in the spirit field are your property. How could I let you do all this work for nothing? Since a bug plague has erupted here, I can at least help out a bit. Jiren followed Yang Bingzi into the muddy paddy field. His spiritual sense, sharp from being at the 4th layer of chi refining, soon detected insects gathered on rice panicles, leaf nodes, or under the roots. There were larvae and adult insects alike. Their sizes ranged from being too small to see with the naked eye to as large as a fist. The larger ones were bold enough to attack cultivators and were extremely ferocious. The spirit insects constantly gnawed on the spirit rice seedlings. This would inevitably decrease the spirit rice yield, a significant concern for spirit farmers. Corner worms have become a disaster, they're everywhere. Yang Bingzi said. Corner worms were beetle-like creatures as large as chicken eggs, with dark shells and sharp horns on their heads. They were adept at burrowing. Yang Bingzi expertly employed his metal finger technique. A golden ray of light flickered past, accurately exterminating a corner worm. Sensing the presence of living beings, the corner worms either burrowed to hide or attacked the two men. In just a short time, no fewer than 100 had gathered. Using the metal finger technique, Yang Bingzi was already struggling to keep up. It wasn't that he lacked more powerful spells, rather, using such spells would also damage the spirit rice. The insects were too numerous. Attempting to eliminate them one by one was inefficient and an endless task. He could only watch helplessly as the corner worms rampaged through the spirit field, ravaging the spirit rice. Yang Bingzi sighed. I'll have to ask the pest removal team for help, I can't manage this alone. A look of helplessness was on his face. He then said to Jia, Taoist Jia, you go ahead and look for the spirit insect eggs. I'll go hurry the pest removal team along. Yang Bingzi knew that paying for their services was his only option to mitigate the disaster from this bug plague. This year's bug plague was unlike those in past years. The pest removal team was harder to hire and more expensive. With the spirit rice yield already reduced, he would also have to shoulder the costly pest extermination fees. A year's farming could be wasted, and he'd even have to invest more spirit stones. Go ahead. Jia said, sensing Yang Bingzi's predicament. The bug plague was indeed a serious threat to spirit farmers. If others treated him with sincerity, then Jia felt obliged to offer what little help he could. The newly reached breakthrough point of my insect control technique will finally see some action. Jia eyed a dark-shelled corner worm and adeptly used the insect control technique. Control forcefully achieved. It's consuming 10 times more spiritual energy than controlling a mosquito, and I can faintly feel the corner worm's resistance. Controlling too many corner worms might become burdensome. In a short period, Jia controlled more than 30 corner worms and had them attack their own kind, eliminating the spirit insects he encountered. Using insects to fight insects was quite efficient. He continuously replaced the dead and damaged corner worms, and his proficiency level with the insect control technique surged. After the skill breaking point, the change in the insect control technique is astounding, akin to a transformation. My insect control technique has reached master level. As his proficiency level in the insect control technique advanced, the number of corner worms he could control increased. He only began to feel pressure after controlling the 50th corner worm. 50 corner worms rampaged through, invincible in their path and undefeated in battle. Their pest control efficiency was many times faster than the metal finger technique. I'm quite suited for this pest extermination line of work, he mused. Thanks to the bug plague, finding spirit insect eggs was quite easy, and he quickly located hundreds of them. Most were corner worm eggs, other spirit insect eggs were few and far between. After searching another section of the field, his expression grew increasingly puzzled. Could it be that only corner worms are in this spirit field? The insect control scripture states that corner worms have a weak reproductive capacity and aren't prone to causing infestations. Something feels amiss. Just as Jia was growing suspicious, Yang Bingzi arrived at the edge of the field accompanied by a familiar face. Chapter 16, The 16th Pest Control Lounge's Extermination Business. Guaranteed to resolve infestations in 20 acres of spirit fields within 3 days. Only 1 spirit stone per acre. Recently, extermination services require an advance booking. Each day delayed might cause untold damage to the spirit fields. Zhu had an arrogant look on his face, as if to say if you don't book now, many spirit farmers are lining up for extermination services. With the infestation pressing down on them, spirit farmers had no choice but to bow their heads in submission. What? 1 spirit stone per acre? That's far too expensive. In years past, it was only 5 broken spirits per acre. 20 spirit stones is not a small sum. How could I possibly come up with that? Yang Bingzi was panicked. The cost of extermination was too high, and he couldn't afford it. Growing 20 acres of spirit fields, the land rent took up 50% of a good harvest year, spirit rice seeds took another 20%, plus there were other expenses. After a year of hard work, a bountiful year earned at most just over 20 spirit stones. If disasters struck or the harvest was poor, a year's work would be in vain, and he would even have to spend his own spirit stones. Earned spirit stones also had to be used for cultivation, leaving spirit farmers with little to spare. Can't it be a bit cheaper? I really can't come up with so many spirit stones. Ignoring the infestation isn't an option. What if the harvest from 20 acres of spirit fields is completely ruined? That simply wouldn't do. The lost spirit stones would amount to a huge sum, impossible to compensate for, let alone afford next year's land rent and spirit rice seeds money. As a spirit farmer, toiling in the fields for a living, how could I willingly abandon the hard-grown spirit rice? Zhu smiled, his eyes turning shrewd as he quickly said with a smile. Even cultivators face difficult times. You could borrow spirit stones from Tanfang money lending, and it wouldn't be too late to repay them after the harvest. It wasn't until that moment that Zhulezi's true intentions became apparent, like a fox revealing its tail. Upon hearing the words Tanfang money lending, Yang Bingzi's face turned pale. How could he not have heard of the notorious Tanfang, devouring its debtors without spitting out the bones? The usurious loans of 9 out, 13 return. Borrowing 20 spirit stones would snowball into a terrifying amount before he knew it. He absolutely couldn't turn to Tanfang money lending. What am I to do? Ignoring the infestation isn't an option, and one person can't manage 20 acres of spirit fields alone. The cultivators I know are all spirit farmers, busy with their own plots and unable to lend a helping hand. Just as Yang Bingzi was in the midst of his dilemma, Zhulezi's persuasive voice rose. The time for the spirit rice harvest is nearly upon us. If you delay borrowing, not only will you lose the spirit rice, but you also won't be able to pay off your debts. He was pressuring Yang Bingzi, implying that borrowing spirit stones was the way out of his predicament. Brother Zhu, when did you start mixing loan sharking with your extermination business? Jia Ren caught the entirety of their conversation as he emerged from the spirit fields, and he looked at Zhulezi with a touch of irony. Is this the profitable opportunity you wanted to introduce to me? Zhulezi was taken aback, not expecting to see Jia Ren on Grand Wilderness Mountain. Brother Jia, you and Yang Deu moved to the inner city? I haven't yet congratulated you on your admission to the inner city. Zhulezi's eyes shifted. He was deeply wary of Yang Shengwu. A cultivator in the late stage chi refining is not someone to provoke. He took Yang Shengwu's warning seriously, and his attitude toward Jia Ren was now much better than before. Since he is a friend of Taoist Jia, I can give a discount. How about 18 spirit stones? Zhulezi was willing to lower the price of extermination out of respect for Jia Ren. Thank you, Taoist, I'm willing. Upon hearing that the two were acquainted and he could save 2 spirit stones, Yang Bingzi felt he couldn't refuse, to avoid creating enmity with the two cultivators. If borrowing from Tanfang money lending is the only option, I'll just have to grit my teeth and hope I can repay it. Hold on. Just as they were about to agree on the collaboration, Jia Ren abruptly interjected. He had to speak up, otherwise, Yang Bingzi would truly be taken for a ride. The reduced price made Yang Bingzi think there was a bargain to be had. Zhulezi was attempting to use their acquaintance as a breakthrough point, essentially leveraging Jia Ren's influence as if implying, I'm friends with your friend, how could I deceive you? If it were a normal transaction, I wouldn't intervene, but this is different. Based on what I know about Zhulezi, that guy is always good at swindling and cheating. The straightforward Yang Bingzi is probably going to be tricked badly. In the end, I'd even be resented as an accomplice. No benefit for me, just making enemies for no reason. Brother Jia, getting 2 spirit stones cheaper is already not bad. I'm not the only one available for pest extermination. Zhulezi's expression turned cold. Anyone who messed with his money-making would not be looked upon favorably. Cutting off someone's livelihood is like killing their parents. Yang Deu, consider it for one more day. There's no need to rush your response. Jia Ren ignored Zhulezi and offered this reminder. The tactic of dragging things out is a divine skill, very appropriate in this situation. That was all that needed to be said. He did not want to fall out with Zhulezi and be remembered with resentment. Yang Bingzi didn't refuse. The pest problem couldn't be solved in a short time, so one more day wouldn't hurt. Zhulezi was displeased but couldn't make a scene and could only leave sullenly. Taoist Jia, could there be a problem? Yang Bingzi might have seemed naively honest, but that didn't mean he was stupid. Jia Ren had interrupted the deal repeatedly. There had to be a problem. Zhulezi excels at swindling and cheating. He's not a good person for pest extermination. The spirit stones from Tanfang money lending are hot potatoes. It's better not to borrow them. Yang Bingzi sighed, opened his mouth, but didn't voice his thoughts. Their friendship isn't deep. Asking to borrow spirit stones out of the blue would not only fail but might also ruin their relationship. By the way, I have a question. Are there only corner worms in the spirit field? Jia Ren hadn't spent much time in the spirit fields. He had encountered very few types of spirit insects, but the corner worms were rampant. There are quite a few types of spirit insects in the spirit fields: earth dragon worms, flying locusts, thousand-leg worms. Yang Bingzi listed the names of the spirit insects as if reciting treasures from a familiar list. After cultivating spirit fields for many years and mastering the metal finger technique, he had killed quite a few spirit insects. In non-pest years, he would deal with the pests in the spirit field on his own. Is it always corner worms in the pest outbreaks every year? Jia Ren felt there was an issue but couldn't put his finger on it. The insect control scripture mentioned information about corner worms. They were not strong breeders, their only advantage being their hidden egg laying, which made them hard to detect. As long as pest control isn't neglected, there's no way the corner worms could overrun. The pest outbreaks were always flying locust disasters in the past. This is the first time I've seen a corner worm disaster. Compared to a flying locust disaster, the corner worm disaster is much milder, and there's still a chance to exterminate them. Just the thought of a flying locust disaster turned Yang Bingzi's face pale. If a flying locust disaster struck, a sky-covering swarm of flying locusts could hardly be eradicated, even with spells. Where the swarm of flying locusts passed, not a single blade of grass would grow. By then, it wouldn't be a reduction in spirit rice yield, nothing would be left. In the event of a flying locust disaster, the Five Elements sect would intervene, but no one would compensate for the spirit farmers' losses. Thankfully, a flying locust disaster hadn't appeared for many years. Has there never been a corner worm disaster before? A relatively mild disaster? And there's still a chance to exterminate them? Jia Ren finally understood the answer and couldn't help but laugh. Have you ever considered that the corner worm disaster might be man-made? As long as the profits were high enough, there would always be people who would stop at nothing, risking danger, even if it meant facing mortal peril. Exterminating pests and offering loans. With Jia Ren's insight, he could see a hidden chain of interest. The spirit farmers are just the targets to be reaped by the sickle. What? The corner worm disaster could be caused by humans? Yang Bingzi was greatly shocked, unable to regain his composure for a long time. Better to believe it possible than not. If this matter were true. That's audacious indeed. I will report this to the Five Elements sect. They will send someone to investigate. Yang Bingzi had great trust in the Five Elements sect. Given the sect's emphasis on the spirit fields, if someone were causing trouble, they would surely investigate thoroughly. Chapter 17-17 Poisonous Spine Insect Taoist Jia, I hadn't expected you to possess insect control skills. Jia Ren didn't conceal his insect control technique from Yang Bingzi. Along the way, he effectively used corner worms to eliminate other pests with high efficiency. Even though Yang Bingzi was an experienced pest remover, he was still amazed, his face unable to hide his envy. I'm truly grateful to you. The pest problem in the 16 mu of spirit fields is completely gone, and I can take care of the remaining 4 mu myself. The two of them were busy until near dusk. Jia Ren had collected several hundred corner worm eggs and more than 20 flying locust eggs, which was less than he had expected. Yang Bingzi had been deep in a pest crisis, on the verge of incurring heavy debts. With Jia Ren's help, the problem was largely solved in the blink of an eye, delighting him beyond his wildest expectations. I haven't had a chance to properly host you yet, so please don't rush off. Helping with pest removal and hinting that the pest infestation was suspicious were both acts of kindness. Jia Ren couldn't refuse and had to follow along. There are 18 earth dragon worms in total. The worms from the ground aren't very valuable. These are homegrown spirit jujubes. It's just a pity they aren't ripe yet and are all old dates. Taoist Jia, please don't disdain them. I only managed to borrow over 30 pounds of green bud rice. I have just 3 spirit stones and 5 broken spirits. I hope Taoist Jia will accept them all. Compared to the high cost of pest removal, Yang Bingzi felt that what he offered was insignificant. He had done his best and could only offer so much. I'll accept the other items, but there's no need for the spirit stones. Jia Ren sat at the stone table, and Yang Bingzi enthusiastically served tea and a few dried red dates. The tea was spiritual tea. Yang Bingzi had been reluctant to buy it himself, so he'd borrowed a small amount from a neighbor. The red dates were spirit jujubes, unfortunately old and with little spiritual energy. Jia Ren picked up the red date. It was very sweet. When the spirit jujubes are ripe, I will send some to you, Taoist friend. Jia Ren repeatedly declined the spirit stones, and Yang Bingzi, seeing he wouldn't accept them, resolved to make it up to him later. How many spirit jujubes can one tree produce? Jia Ren's gaze turned towards the spirit jujube trees. Their yellow blossoms were particularly attractive. If we're lucky, a tree can produce 100 pounds. But after sharing with everyone, not much is left. Yang Bingzi was an honest man. He had given away the spirit jujubes from the trees instead of selling them for spirit stones. Otherwise, by relying on the spirit jujube tree, he could have earned 5 to 10 spirit stones each year. Grand Wilderness Mountain was different from the Great Wilderness Market. It had less petty scheming and more human warmth. Taoist Jia, stay back. Be careful of the poison thorn caterpillars. Seeing Jia Ren approaching the spirit jujube tree, Yang Bingzi quickly held him back. Poison thorn caterpillar? A spirit insect? Jia Ren's eyes lit up, and he began to carefully inspect the spirit jujube tree. In hidden spots among the spirit jujube tree's leaves and branches, green, furry caterpillars lay, sucking sap from the spirit tree leaves as nourishment. I didn't expect to encounter such a spirit insect. It's much better than the corner worms. The insect control scripture contained information about poison thorn caterpillars, a species inherently toxic but not particularly strong in combat. What made them dreaded were their poisonous spines. Anyone handling them carelessly could be in trouble. A victim would experience intense pain, unbearable itching, and an inability to concentrate. Exposure to too many poisonous spines could even be fatal to a cultivator. The larvae were quite formidable. As adults, they transformed into poisonous phosphorus moths, capable of flight and releasing poisonous phosphorus powder, a natural toxic material. It could be said that the poison thorn caterpillar's value far exceeded that of the corner worm. I almost forgot, Taoist Jia can control spirit insects. The poison thorn caterpillar is a good choice. Taoist friend, activate your spirit chi protective barrier, and be absolutely sure not to touch the poisonous spines. Yang Bingzi quickly warned, fearing Jia Ren might suffer a loss out of ignorance. Don't worry. Jia Ren silently invoked the spirit chi protective barrier, and a thin layer of spiritual energy shield materialized by his side. The spirit chi protective barrier has changed? His non-elemental spirit chi protective barrier now shone with a yellow-green light, a change resulting from his practice of the turtle spirit technique. Protected by the spirit chi protective barrier, Jia Ren no longer worried about the poisonous spines. He boldly approached the spirit jujube tree to look for poison thorn caterpillar eggs. He collected every egg and didn't overlook the poison thorn caterpillar larvae either. He controlled them on the spot, replacing the corner worms. Their poisonous spines also had uses. They could serve as a special toxin. In a short time, he had dealt with all the poison thorn caterpillars on the spirit jujube tree. All the eggs were taken, and the caterpillars were either brought under his control or turned into bug corpses. I'll need to buy a spirit beast bag, Jia Ren thought. It's too problematic to carry so many insects around. Taoist Jia, your pest removal skills are strong. You could earn quite a few spirit stones through pest extermination. You might want to consider it. Earn spirit stones from pest removal? A good proposal indeed. The downside is that it might provoke the pest removal team and needlessly create enemies. Thank you for your hospitality. I will give this matter careful consideration. We shall meet again. Jia Ren said. Having obtained the eggs he wanted, he had no intention of lingering any longer. Before leaving, he did not forget to caution Yang Bingzi. Thank you for your assistance, Taoist Yang. When you report this matter, I hope you won't mention my name. If there is indeed a culprit behind this spirit field pestilence, Taoist Yang, you must also be cautious for your safety. If this spirit field pestilence was man-made, it implied the involvement of numerous cultivators, Jia Ren mused. The pest removal team. Heavenly River Square. Perhaps even some of the spirit farmers were involved. And who knew if there were even more powerful individuals pulling the strings behind the scenes. Unless absolutely necessary, Jia Ren didn't want to rashly step into this vortex. Rest assured, Taoist Jia, I will be extra cautious. Yang Bingzi replied. Watching Jia Ren depart, Yang Bingzi's eyes grew resolute. He headed straight for the Five Elements sex residence in the Great Wilderness Market. The pest problem in his own spirit fields might have been solved, but many other spirit farmers were still deeply troubled by such infestations. If someone doesn't want us spirit farmers to live, then I'll make sure those people can't go on living. He vowed silently. Someone has to stand up and bring light to this darkness. Back at his residence, Jia Ren thought, first, I'll prepare bait to stock up for tomorrow. He immediately set to work. In less than 3 hours, over 14,000 pieces of bait were freshly made. The quality was much better than the last batch. Each piece was fragrant and of excellent quality. Jia Ren carefully stored the bait away. Now, shall I try out the insect taming technique? He mused, eagerly taking out the insect eggs. He currently had 3 types of eggs, corner worm eggs, flying locust eggs, and poison thorn caterpillar eggs. The corner worm eggs weren't very valuable but were the most numerous. In Jia Ren's mind, their only use was to dig holes, like diligent miners. The flying locust eggs weren't bad. Once they reached a sufficient number, they could be quite fearsome. However, to achieve the desired effect, he would need millions of eggs. A few flying locust eggs were not very useful. The poison thorn caterpillar eggs were his favorite. He prepared the necessary materials for the spirit contract mark. The insect taming technique differed from the insect control technique. The former focused more on cultivation and nurturing. The insect control technique, on the other hand, involved forcible control. Without sufficient expertise, there was a risk of backlash. Jia Ren soaked the eggs in spiritual liquid to hasten their growth. When the spirit insects hatched, he could imprint them with the spirit contract mark to control them. The insect taming technique offered far greater control than the insect control technique. Insects tamed this way were less likely to turn on their master, and he could control a much larger number of them. Time to deal with the poison thorn caterpillars and collect their poisonous spines, Jiren thought. He activated his spirit chi protective barrier to prevent the poisonous spines from touching him. He carefully stripped the poisonous spines from the caterpillars and collected them into porcelain bottles. Soon, 50 poison thorn caterpillars were turned into bulb caterpillars. Jiren had plucked all their spines clean. The collected poisonous spines filled 2 small porcelain bottles. What a great item. Definitely a sneaky tool for ambushing others. Should I find a target to test it on? The insect control scripture's description of the poisonous spines wasn't detailed enough for him to intuitively grasp their effects. Jiren wasn't foolish enough to test them on himself. He would have to find another target. The one who followed and ambushed me? Or Julesi? He disliked both of them. However, his feelings towards Julesi were more of an aversion. The grudge wasn't too deep. Should I use the one who ambushed me as a test subject? Chapter 18-18 Business went cold. Jiren hesitated for a moment but decided against taking action at night. The night was too dangerous. It was practically a paradise for bizarre cultivators. Who knew how many would emerge to stir up trouble? If he accidentally stumbled into the line of fire, he would likely die without ever knowing why. Jiren wouldn't risk his life, especially not just to test poisons. If he were to make a move, he would wait until his strength had significantly improved and far surpassed his opponent's.